Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the live show. This is Starlight Beacon Transmissions episode 45. Between recorded episodes and live shows, we've done 45 of these right now. And we have a huge show tonight, actually. And I couldn't think of anyone better to join us for this show. So we're going to get into the introductions. We're going to get into the fun. Tonight, well, first off, my name is Eric Mitchell. I am your host. And tonight we have a huge show. We are going to be talking about um, the Obi-Wan Kenobi poster and series premiere date. We're going to be doing a huge Book of Boba Fett roundtable, and then we're also going to be talking to Steven and Sarah from Princess and Scoundrel podcast to talk to them about, of course, Boba Fett, Disney trips because Sarah is a Disney travel agent, and of course, we've got to talk about the Galactic Star Cruiser because, I mean, why not? you know, this is a lot to talk about, but I am not alone tonight. As you can see, I've got my friends here. Um, we have a few introductions to make here. Introducing first and making her debut, she is one of the hosts of the Knights of Ren podcast. It's Allie Andrews. Allie, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you here. Next up, making her debut, she is now a member of our team. She's a member of our community. You may know her on Twitter as Lilo and Jane. She's a High Republic superfan. It's Jane. Jane, how are you?
Hey. I'm just super happy to be here. I'm super excited to talk about Boba Fett and just everything else we have going.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Also, we have another member of our team joining us. She's another one of our new members. She's back for, I think, what is it? Her third consecutive week now.
Third.
Third week. Um,
Yeah.
she's, I think, the only one of us that hasn't been to Batu yet. But don't worry, don't worry,
Ooh.
don't
Yeah,
worry.
Throwing shade.
No, I'm not throwing shade. We were just talking about it last night.
Yeah, it's,
And
I know.
and Luna was just like, "Yeah, you can say
Just
that. I
kidding.
don't care."
Yeah, I don't
I'm just kidding.
yeah.
It,
It's
it only
Luna.
hurts on the inside.
Yeah, of course.
Hi.
Well, that lemon juice is actually going to hurt here in a little
Yeah,
bit.
I made a promise last week that we'll
Yeah,
get into.
we're gonna do that after our after our
Yeah.
introductions here,
We'll
and
get into it.
and finally, we're not done yet. Making his triumphant return. He is a Cloud9 super fan. Uh, and he is one of the hosts of Level Up Live. Apparently, I can't speak tonight, and he is one of the hosts of Game On DC. I also think that you are now the Imperials. You're now in the Empire's PR department.
Propaganda ministry, but yes, it's close enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Propaganda ministry.
His name is John Byram. John, welcome back, buddy.
What is up? I would do a 360 in my chair right now to introduce myself, but I think that would trigger half of Twitter at the moment. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
go ahead and lay off that at the for now.
Exactly. And if anybody in chat wants to clip that, go right ahead.
God.
Thank you all for being here, and let's have some fun tonight. But before we get into the announcements, Luna, I believe I believe that since we didn't get a teaser for season 2 of the Book
Thank
of
God.
Boba Fett, well,
So
they haven't said anything yet, but I have a feeling that they're going to
The,
confirm it.
so I promised the other week or last week, I think,
Yeah, it was last
that
week.
if there wasn't a teaser for season 2 of Book of Boba Fett at the end of the season 1 finale, I would drink lemon juice on stream. And I went to Walmart earlier and I got this. I got nothing like warm, pure lemon juice, right, guys?
Oh yeah.
I've got an excessively large chalice here, and I'm just gonna.
Just
It's got like a
don't fill
weird.
it too much. Don't fill it too
Tell me when to
much.
stop, John.
That's it. That's it.
That's
Okay,
good. You're
that's it.
fine. You're
Yeah,
fine
you're
there.
good.
Then
You're
why'd
good.
you make me get a bigger? Okay.
Because it was more for the ironic,
It was peer pressure.
take and
Okay.
All
And
right.
I've got.
So Luna,
Cheers.
I just want you to take I just want you to take a sip of this, okay?
A sip.
Right now
Yeah.
I just want you to take a sip. If you want to drink it. Oh,
I didn't even taste it. I just put my nose in there, and it's like
Oh my God.
oh no. Do you have
It's
water
so
with you?
lemony.
I'll be fine.
Oh,
That's the
famous
spirit.
last words. Oh! I'm sorry, it was funny. Are you okay?
Tastes like chlorine.
Yes.
Oh, no.
That's what I think that's what they used to scrub barnacles off of boats. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Star Wars Twitter, this is what happens when you make bad predictions. You have to drink lemon juice. Luna, I applaud you for holding up your end of the bargain, but Star Wars Twitter, do better. Otherwise,
I'm
this
a
is going to be
cautionary
you
tale.
also. You're going to be
Fire-
chugging lemon juice too.
Fire a warning shot across the nose, sir. Fire a warning shot across the bow.
All over my laptop.
Are you
Oh, no.
okay?
I'm good.
You just have to get through the rest throughout the entire show now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Did you clean up your laptop?
Yeah, I like close. My laptop was closed, thankfully.
Okay,
so
thank
just got on
God.
the cover.
Okay.
Oh, it won't go away. It's just hanging out in
no,
my mouth.
it will not go away for quite a while.
Oh no.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do with the rest of this?
Just toss it. You're
Yeah,
good.
just toss it. You're good.
You're fine.
You're good. We're not gonna have you take another shot at the end of the show. We're not gonna do that. So while Luna is recovering, let's get to some announcements real quick. Oh,
No.
she just downed it.
I'm good. I did it.
Wow.
Okay, Luna. Okay.
Oh,
Let's go.
I mean, I'm pretty fucking impressed.
Yes,
Yeah,
let's
but
go.
Also,
Absolutely.
kind of terrified for your stomach in like
Oh.
an hour.
That's a problem for future Luna.
we're gonna get to the Sarah and
Or
Steven
current.
interview, and Luna's just gonna lose it right there. Exactly, just like that.
I'm gonna get some water.
Yeah,
It's
go ahead. I'll
probably
go
a
through
good
some
idea.
announcements. So while Luna's recovering, I did not think she was gonna down that whole thing.
Nope.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I mean, I expect these shenanigans in our RPG show. I don't expect it here. Anyway, um, so we have two announcements to go through tonight. Our show on February 26th is actually going to be not a Star Wars show. We're going to be talking about the Amazon animated series, The Legend of Vox Machina. And then that is also somebody's birthday. I don't know whose birthday it is. Is it mine? Not you. You don't know? Okay. The 26th is my birthday, so I figured why not change it up a little bit. I feel like I'm humble bragging.
It's your show. I mean, you can do what
I
you
mean,
want.
I think you can do that.
Okay. And then the next night, yeah, you get two shows that weekend. The next night is finally the return of our RPG show. That will be 8 p.m. Eastern. And Luna, are you okay?
No, I'm good. Keep going.
Hey, Zach. I'm good.
I've got Dr. Pepper.
Oh, okay, because that'll wash that lemon taste out of your mouth.
It's working. It's
Okay,
It's
good.
cherry Dr. Pepper.
Oh, okay.
Zero
okay.
sugar because I'm healthy, right, guys?
All right, it's allowed. All right. Anyway, back to our RPG show. That is going to be on the 27th, and our crew may or may not be doing something that involves an expensive experience that's about to open up at Disney.
And stealing it.
And stealing it. Who knows? So join us for a wonderful night of action, adventure, comedy, and possibly romance. Who knows? No.
No.
Okay. Well, I
Not
didn't have
allowed.
I didn't have anything planned for your character anyway, so it's okay.
My character's going to be killed off, is what you're trying to tell me. So that's fine. You know.
Maybe.
Ouch.
Keep it up, John. Anyway, so let's get into the news here. Luna, are you good?
Yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about
Okay. Everybody else good?
Yep.
Okay. Allie's probably thinking, what did I agree to coming on this show? And Jane's probably thinking the same thing, like, what did we agree to? Anyway, let's get into the news before we dive into Book of Boba Fett here. And for the news, we did receive, actually on Wednesday, as the Book of Boba Fett did drop, we did receive a poster and a release date for a little known show about, is it Yoda?
I think his name is Ben or something.
Doesn't sound right.
Kenobi.
Ben Solo?
Mhm.
Is it Ben Solo?
Ben
Yep,
Kenobi.
that sounds right.
Yeah. Um, no, we got the Obi-Wan
Yeah.
poster and we got the Obi-Wan release date. This was really interesting because, I mean, now don't get me wrong, the poster looks incredible. It and seeing him with the lightsaber, which we're all thinking it's Anakin's lightsaber,
Yeah.
It's got
in
that
his hand.
slanted emitter.
Yeah, it does have the slanted emitter. So we're thinking that that's the case. We also do have a release date here, which is May 25th, which is actually this would be the 45th anniversary of A New Hope.
Mhm.
When we first saw Obi-Wan.
Yep, where we first saw Obi-Wan. I think that's kind of fitting. This is also the day before Celebration starts,
Yeah.
which I think, I mean, I guess you could say we kind of called it by saying that it was gonna drop around Celebration.
Got it
Mhm.
on a technicality.
We did get it on a technicality. You are correct. So I'm gonna start with Jane, then I'm gonna go with Allie, Luna, and then John. Your thoughts on this poster, the release date, the hype levels, because I think like the hype is just gonna keep going for this thing. So Jane, go ahead, kick us off.
I was surprised by like almost all of this, if I'm honest. I know everyone thought that Kenobi was gonna come out first. I really thought Andor was gonna come out first because it's been filming way longer, and I was just like they started filming Kenobi like halfway through Andor, and I'm like, this Andor's got to come out first. Also, I'm surprised by like the release date. I kind of do think maybe Bad Batch will come out on May 4th, and they'll run simultaneously now, just because like it seems like now we're getting like a 3 month gap, and there's so many shows that are supposed to come out this year. Like, I'm just trying to figure out where everything fits, and I'm like, they have to push Bad Batch out during the other shows. There's just no physical way to do it otherwise. Um, but the poster itself, I got kind of excited, like more excited than I expected to be. And I don't know why, it just looked different than like everything else. It had like a different art style than like the Mandalorian shows. Like, it didn't like feel like a character poster like one of these other things. I'm like, it just made me really excited to see what Deborah Chow does. I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of where I ended up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're gonna circle back to the Bad Batch thing after everybody gets their thoughts
Yeah.
out for this. Allie, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with like what Jane said about the poster itself, like the fact that Obi-Wan is like so far back. It's like very different. It's not like right in your face character poster. Here it is. So that definitely like was a different kind of feel. And in terms of the date, I definitely think it's interesting that it's coming out right before Celebration. Like we all kind of expected when Celebration moved from August to May that there was like a reason for that. And I don't know if this was like the only reason or if there's something else that's going on or whatever, but I definitely think like this was one of those reasons. As you know, the hype level, I think it'll be very interesting to see how that shifts Celebration in terms of what we're all talking about, because I obviously a lot of our conversation already takes place on Twitter, like when an episode drops, but the fact that we actually will like hopefully, unless it gets canceled, obviously, but hopefully be in person and be able to like discuss the episode with each other. And like in terms of also like fan panels, like that's just going to be a big thing, because I even remember like when like obviously when like Tross came out and like the 2019 celebration, that just like overcame some podcast panels. And so like in terms of such a large show, that'll just be interesting to talk about with so many fans at the convention. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Luna, go ahead, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, it was really exciting. I've been super excited for this show, and we still don't really know much about what the plot's gonna be. A lot less, I think, than for example, we don't even know the overarching premise in the same way we knew what Book of Boba Fett was sort of the premise was. But and this character poster sort of, or not character poster, this poster um goes with that, because you just sort of see him at a distance going through the desert. We have Obi-Wan on Tatooine. We already knew that, and we think he's got Anakin Saber, which is obviously awesome, but there's still this air of mystery around it, and I really like that. So I'm even more excited now. I think the poster is beautiful, and I
Yeah.
want it on my wall ASAP.
Oh yeah. I think we're all there with that poster. We all want it on our walls. All right, John, bring us home on the poster and the release date, bud.
Yeah, so obviously the poster is fantastic. The announcement was amazing. The thing I love the most about this poster is one, it's very simple. It's Obi-Wan in the distance on a sand dune on Tatooine. It is very simple, it is not crowded, and it tells such a massive story. Last time we saw Obi-Wan Kenobi was essentially bringing Luke to his uncle. And that's the last we saw. Anakin turned to the dark side. He feels lost. He feels like he let Anakin down. There's all this like darkness closing in on Obi-Wan because he feels like he failed Anakin. And that's what I get from this poster. It is him literally in the middle of the desert all alone with him and his thoughts. Absolutely fantastic. If that is Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber in his hand, which I think it is, that just adds even more to it, because to me, that tells me he still has that attachment to Anakin. He's still going to have that battle between, did I fail him and where did Anakin go wrong? I think the series, the hype around it is justified. Yeah, we don't know where it's going to go. I really hope that it goes in a very positive direction. But right now, just the hype around this poster, the hype in the Star Wars community is real, and I absolutely love this poster. Luna, I agree 100%. I want this poster on my wall as soon as possible also.
The when I first saw maybe that's Anakin's lightsaber, the first thing I thought was, what if he duels Darth Vader with Anakin's lightsaber? How like thematic would that be? That would be so cool.
Mhm.
Pretty epic.
Yeah, because I mean they have said that Anakin and Obi-Wan are meeting for a rematch in
Yeah.
the show. So that'll be interesting to see. Um, I want to go to the Bad Batch thing, and then we'll head back into the Celebration thing, because Allie, you definitely brought up really good points with Celebration. Now with the Bad Batch, could we get that May 4th release date, and then could they then shift the Bad Batch to Friday release dates like they did with the first season, allowing Obi-Wan to release on Wednesdays and to still have like a little bit of breathing room? Um,
I, I think so, personally. Also because like I think they're animated shows at this point, or like they're smaller shows that isn't like the big live action MCU or big live action Star Wars. That stuff is kind of like sidelined. Like that's not why people are staying on Disney Plus, like the general audience. So that stuff is gonna be like secondary. It'll come out on Fridays, it can come out when the live action shows do. It's kind of like an added thing,
yeah.
I think.
Allie, your
I
thoughts?
thought.
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead,
sorry.
Luna. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I thought maybe they might shift to a schedule like they did with the first season or two of Rebels, where it was two
Oh, yeah.
episodes per week.
Yeah. I mean, that would make sense too. Allie, your thoughts on that, and then John, your thoughts. Allie, go ahead.
I mean, personally for me, I get where Disney's at. I get that, but for me, it's kind of sad that the animation will come secondary, but I just realized that that's Disney for you. But I definitely like think that could be a way it could work. Obviously, they kind of like to keep their shows separated, and while like you brought up the valid point of like animation, they might not care as much, but I actually would prefer if they still keep some separation, especially because it can be so much, especially with a show that has as much as hype as Obi-Wan has. Like, it can be so much like, let's just focus on this one thing, that this will get like pushed to the side. And I don't want either show to be pushed to the side, because just as much work is going into the animated show as is going into the live action. So.
Yeah. And that is the biggest point here, that I think that we can take away from that, is that you've got to look at both teams that are working on both of these shows and how hard they're working. John, go ahead with your thoughts on that.
Can I just say, I may be the only one that thinks this way, and I'm completely fine with it. I hate Wednesday releases.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
the same way.
the
Oh, yeah.
middle of the week absolutely just throttles my mind.
So
That
inconvenient.
that is like Disney Plus's. You know what? One of our Marvel series released on a Wednesday and did well. So we're
Yeah.
gonna release everything. Give it to me on a Friday. Give me a reason to get through the work week. Like I
Yeah.
need that extra motivation to make it to Friday because there's
Yeah.
some weeks
Yeah.
where I just want to roll over and die. So let me get to Friday. Don't let me just get to Wednesday, then let me down and have
Yeah.
Thursday and Friday to try to make it.
We don't
Yeah.
need new episodes on Hump Day.
No.
For real.
Well, I mean, it worked for Loki. Like it worked for Loki
Yeah.
because Loki is the god of mischief. So like it
He's
was
supposed to be
mischievous
inconvenient.
for it was mischievous for Disney to release Loki on a Wednesday. And then they're like,
Are
"Oh,
you
well
sure
that
you're
did
Are you sure
whatever."
you're not reading a little too much into it?
A little bit.
But you know,
Whatever. Let me finish my thought
Sorry, go on.
before I make you drink more lemon juice.
Okay, get out of
So, or like with Loki, what they should have done was just pick. My wife brought this up. They should have just picked random days of the week just to drop the episode of Loki.
that would have been funny.
Yeah. But for like Star Wars, I always associate Star Wars with Fridays because of The Mandalorian, because of The Bad Batch, because of Clone Wars Season 7. I've always associated Star Wars with Fridays on Disney Plus. And now I hate the Wednesday release date. I really do. Like it works for like May 4th this year, it would work. And it worked last year for the Bad Batch being released on May 4th. And of course, it's going to work like releasing right before Celebration on that Wednesday to give people something to talk about. And then, of course, this will move into our Celebration discussion before we get into Book of Boba Fett here. Um, this is actually a smart move by Disney here and Lucasfilm because then, like, you drop that episode right before Celebration, and then you bring Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen out for a panel at Celebration, and then those attending Celebration give them a look at the second episode.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
that would be another way of doing it. I always thought that they were going to wait until the end of the show to drop it just as that one more thing. Um, Allie, I want to get your thoughts on that. Then I'll go with Luna, Jane, and then John. Allie, go ahead.
Something I just like thought of when you said that just now, it made me think about how that actually adds a layer specifically for the creatives because obviously I've only attended one celebration in person, and so the rest I've watched online. So I haven't attended like every panel ever. But from what I remember, a lot of panels that we do get are for like newer content are like it's yet to come out. For example, like Clone Wars Season 7 panel. So obviously they could show trailers and they could talk like vaguely about what was coming. But nothing was like fully released yet. So the fact that we're gonna have like at least one episode out, I think that will shift a bit of the panel discussion where you can actually, well, obviously as creatives, you can't be like, let's theorize about the next episodes, but you could like at least talk on some level about what we've gotten so far. And I think that'll be a bit interesting and a bit different.
Yeah, I agree with that. Luna, go ahead.
Yeah. I she pretty much hit the nail on the head. That's what I was thinking as well.
Okay.
I don't really have anything to add.
No,
I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. You're fine. Jane, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add there. I do think, just kind of when we were talking about the releases, I also prefer like the Friday releases. I don't think we'll see those again, than for some other stuff. But I think they do that just because, like, with film releases, I think they're essentially trying to avoid ever like having like their big season finale the same day they release a movie and like people stay in essentially, which sucks because like I really preferred those Fridays. I thought that was the most fun thing because then also like you have the weekend, you're speculating, you're talking with people, like that was the fun of it. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, before I get to you, John, I actually wanna expand on one of the points that you just made, Jane, when it comes to the Friday releases and especially like if Disney's releasing a big movie. I mean, flashback to 2019 where we got The Rise of Skywalker, they pushed that episode of The Mandalorian up a couple of
Mhm.
days to give Rise of Skywalker some breathing room, but also to introduce one of the Force concepts that Rise of
Mhm.
Skywalker would
Yeah.
actually then touch on in that movie. So I think that that's interesting that they could definitely, if they do have a big movie, which we know Disney's going to have a huge summer, um, that is another way of doing it as well. Like, push that episode up a couple of days or push it back a couple of days. Like, let that movie breathe for a weekend. And I'm all for you about the Friday releases, especially with speculation and everything. And it
Mhm.
gives people a chance to watch it over the weekend too. John, go
Mhm.
ahead.
Yeah, my thing with the whole Friday thing is like I used to get together with friends on a Friday night and we would just binge watch whatever came out on Disney Plus or other streaming platforms, whatever we were interested in. That is very difficult to do when you have to be up at 6 a.m. on
Yep.
Thursday morning to go into
Mhm.
work.
Yeah.
You're usually done by 10. You usually start at 7. That's 3 hours. Congratulations, you might get 2 episodes in. If you have Disney approved beverages you're drinking, you may have to cut that off a little bit early if there's not
Yeah.
a Mickey Mouse bus to take you home. So, it's just drives me like I get why they're doing it, and I
Yeah.
get the whole thing of spacing out the theatrical releases as well.
Hmm.
That's completely fine, but I don't think there's anything wrong with spacing it out, like you said, with the Mando episode, giving it 2 days worth of breathing room before Skywalker came out.
Yeah.
That makes complete sense to me, and you have every right to do that.
Yeah.
It just makes it more complicated when it's on a Wednesday, especially when you have casual people on social media that do
No.
not check social media really during the weekends when they're busy. It's mainly while they're at work or while they have downtime during the week. It's less of an opportunity for someone to spoil it
Yeah.
if it's on a Friday.
That's true.
There'll still be spoilers. Like, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but I feel like they're not as bad where it's on a Wednesday. It's like I have to go through my entire workday.
Yeah.
Not that I'm supposed to be on social media anyway, but avoiding social media
Yeah.
so that episode doesn't get spoiled so I can watch it when I get home. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. It drives me up a wall.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's, yeah. Go ahead.
okay, yeah, to speak from like a younger perspective,
Yeah.
from someone who's still in school, the homework load, at least for me, it gets really bad towards the middle of the week.
Yeah.
I'm someone who used to stay up till like midnight to watch all the episodes. I haven't been able to do that with the Book of Boba Fett because I'm doing homework so late, and then I'm like, oh, I need to go to bed because I have to get up for class the next day.
Yeah.
So like even for like kids and younger people, the Wednesday is a challenging thing because like you have all your homework in the middle of the week and you got to get it done. Whereas like a Friday, you're done with school for the weekend. Yeah, you might have some weekend homework break, but there's a ton more time to like consume it. So yeah.
Yeah. The Friday release just feels like a gift, like John said, of getting through the work week to like get to this point.
I
So,
did notice
hmm,
that a lot fewer people seem to have watched the episode the evening of
yeah.
than with like the
Hmm.
Mandalorian or the Bad Batch. Because
Yeah.
like with the Bad Batch, when it was coming out on Fridays, it seemed like everybody had already seen it
Yeah.
the next day. But in this one, they're like, oh, I gotta watch it when I get home from work.
Yeah.
I gotta watch it in the morning. I
And
can't watch it and
and I'm just gonna share one last thought on this before we go on to Book of Boba Fett here, and that is sometimes, like, especially if it's that middle of the week release date, sometimes you just don't feel like watching it because you were just wiped out from work or school or what have you. And, like, of course, with all of us being involved in Star Wars media now, like, of course, we want to just get right in there and we just want to dissect everything. And it feels like we have an obligation to do it. Um, Whereas, like, I'm not saying that we don't enjoy we don't enjoy watching it. It's just like, we're watching it for our enjoyment, but then we have to break it down. So it feels like we're kind of forced to watch it at times, if that makes sense.
Can I jump on that really quick?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Because like I know I am a total Twitter like junkie. So I know like most of the time for Star Wars shows, I wake up at about 4, like for my normal work. So I wake up at 3, like on those days, to like watch it before I go into work,
Oh,
and I'm just like, so I can like get on Twitter and like not like get spoiled immediately.
yeah,
Book of Boba Fett was like the first one where I was like, okay,
yeah,
like the second and like third episode, I was like, I don't need to wake up that early. Like I'll do it
yeah,
when I get home.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how Luna. I don't know how you and Maggie did it with those 3 a.m.
Yeah,
episode drops.
I would always stay up every single episode. I stayed up till
Yeah,
3 a.m. to watch it.
yeah,
Hmm.
Not
yeah.
worth it. I'm not
No,
sacrificing my sleep.
no.
Sorry.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. All right, so actually, let's move on now to Boba Fett here and this finale that just aired, which was in the called "In the Name of Honor," I believe was the name of
Yes.
the
Yeah.
finale. Um, we're gonna share spoiler-free thoughts on this before we get into spoilers. And I'll start with Luna, then I'll go with Allie, then Jane, then John, and then I'll share my thoughts. And then Luna, I believe that you have a special presentation
Yes, I do.
for us as well. So,
But um,
yeah, go ahead. Your spoiler-free thoughts.
spoiler-free thoughts. Loved it. It's probably my second favorite episode of the show, next to episode 2.
Hmm.
I really, really enjoyed it. I think it could have benefited from being a two-parter, or at least being a little longer. Although I think that um, it being an hour long really did help it.
Yeah.
It really felt it was paced pretty well. I still feel like they could have given it a little more breathing room. But other than that, like I have no huge complaint. Well, I have one huge complaint that I will get into. But other than that, I've got
Okay.
one huge complaint I'll get into when we talk about
You?
spoilers. Yeah, I've got go a huge
Wow.
complaint, enormous
Okay.
one.
Okay.
I'm
Uh,
supposed to be the negative one here, not you.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
But guess what, buddy? Now it's me.
Yeah. Oh, all right. I said Jane next, right? Or did I say Allie? I don't
I
even
thought you said
remember.
Allie next, but
Yeah. Go ahead, Allie.
Yeah, I also agree with Luna. Like, I really love the episode. Definitely one of the top ones of the series for me. And just normally, without like spoiling anything, obviously, but like it was nice to see more Boba and Fennec. I don't think that's a spoiler, but
No.
after getting a little detour, it was nice to see them a lot more. I personally wish we could have gotten just a bit, at least a bit more of Fennec, but I still, regardless, love seeing them both again. And I really enjoyed the episode. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Cool. 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 Jane, go ahead.
yeah, I did really love this episode. It might actually be my favorite of the series. I had a couple issues with like some of the, I don't want to say like too spoilery, but like the scale of things maybe. But otherwise I did really like it. I did think it gave a good ending to like our like main characters essentially. Like I think it kind of ended things pretty well with them and had like a few couple great like twists or turns kind of to the plot. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, John, hit me with your spoiler-free thoughts on this finale.
I mean, I was shocked Boba Fett was actually in it.
Yeah.
To be completely honest. I
Main
figured his name
character.
would just appear in the title, and we'll call it a day there,
Yeah.
based upon the last 2 episodes. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see that Boba Fett actually was still involved in this series with his name. Let me put it this way: Fennec. May I say the alternative term for a donkey on your show, Eric?
Sure.
Okay, Fennec is a badass,
Yeah.
right? She went even higher in my badass register after this episode to the
Absolutely.
point where I pre-ordered her pop on Amazon
Oh
instantly
wow,
after I watched the episode.
Wow. That's big praise coming from
that's
you.
high praise.
She is such a badass.
Yeah.
I love her. I loved her before. I love her even more now. I I want her to get her own show,
Yeah.
but I actually want her in the show if she does get a show.
Yeah.
She needs to be in the show and have a
Yes.
plot line involving her in the show throughout the duration of the show.
Yes.
So I love the episode. I thought it was great. I think it was the second best episode of the entire series.
Mhm.
And that is all I will say for the spoiler-free version. Once we get into spoilers, I will rip this episode apart.
Okay. So, spoiler-free thoughts for me as John's like preparing his hit list of like everything for the episode.
We're working on it. We're
Yeah,
working
yeah.
on it.
Spoiler-free thoughts for me. I enjoyed the hell out of this episode. I thought that it was a lot of fun. Um I'm with you, Luna. I think that this could have been a two-part finale. Like, I really wish that this had been an 8-episode series. That way you could have done a two-part finale.
Yeah.
Um, because it just seems like the end of the episode just feels rushed.
Yes.
Um, I will say this, Fennec Shand is the goat when it comes to badass women in Star Wars, in my opinion. Um, I hate how sidelined she was in this series too. And we're gonna get
Mhm.
into that here in just a few minutes because I think that that is going to be like the big takeaway from this series, especially with her character. Um, Loved the action, and it was just fun, and it was nice to see Boba Fett. I will say this: the post credit scene didn't need to happen.
I'm glad it did though.
I am too.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna give you a spoiler warning. Okay, if you have not watched the finale, I mean, you can pause this and catch this on demand later. Support the show. Um, this is a spoiler warning, so you're SOL if you get upset now. Okay. So Luna, you have a presentation for us in which you're going to share your screen real quick.
So I've always been the positive one on the show.
Yes,
For the few
yes, you
episodes
have.
I've been
You
here.
have. Yes.
I've been very glass half full. I've always been a proponent of. I really like this show. I think that overall it's very good. There's just a few
Yeah.
complaints. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to go back on all of that.
Come to the
Oh
dark
my
side.
I'm afraid
gosh.
I'm coming to the dark side. This show is actually really bad, and there was just
Do it.
a cardinal sin that I couldn't. I
Are
just
we
can't abide by.
okay,
So if you look
everybody,
at my
here we
screen
go.
right here,
There we
we
go,
have
I'm
everybody.
we
excited
have
for
a
this.
GIF from. Are we? Is it going?
Yeah, it's going.
Okay. So we've got this scene from the Book of Boba Fett, episode 7. Uh it's unforgivable. I can't believe they would put this in Star Wars. Robert Rodriguez, what were you thinking? I hope I never see this
Yeah.
character again. I don't think Robert Rodriguez should ever, in fact, touch Star Wars again.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking. Haven't I seen this somewhere before?
Oh,
Haven't I seen this in another Star Wars TV series?
I think we have.
Equally as sinful.
Yes.
So I went looking, and wouldn't you believe it, in this episode of the Clone Wars,
Oh my
we've
god.
got this absolutely ridiculous spin going on here by I don't even know who those guys are, honestly. But I hope they never show up in Star Wars again. And I looked, and it
Two of
turned
the
out that
worst characters.
Dave Filoni, he directed the series, or he was at least very involved in it. So I'm thinking maybe Dave Filoni should never touch Star Wars again. I don't think that he should have been forgiven this. I don't like. We got Anakin here doing a big spin, and it's not even his first
Yes, Dark
offense.
Smack.
I mean,
It did.
it's not even his first
Oh.
offense. Is the thing, Anakin with all his spinning.
Oh
But
my god.
and I kept thinking, wait a minute, haven't I seen this somewhere else?
I
And
think
then
we
I thought,
have.
wait, it couldn't be. No, not you too, George. I don't think George Lucas should have ever been allowed to touch Star Wars. I think this makes this an irredeemable movie. 0 out of 10. Would not watch. I can't believe Disney would do this.
Mhm.
I mean, this is
Persuasive.
this is the investigative reporting that you tune into right here, folks.
I can't believe Disney really is ruining Star Wars.
Kathleen
Look
Kennedy
what they
has
did.
ruined Star Wars.
Look
Yes,
look
you're
what
exactly
Kathleen
right.
Kennedy did to beloved character Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars franchise. And I can't believe this was directed by a horrible director. George Lucas never should have touched Star Wars. I can't believe this happened.
So that was some great investigative reporting. That's why you joined our team here.
Yeah.
For that.
So,
Yeah.
in all seriousness, who cares?
Yeah.
But as I was saying,
Who cares?
like I went through a lot of clips. There's like there's obviously the spinny lightsaber thing from Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yeah.
That was a little silly. There was I know there's like reasons for it, but there was also in The Empire Strikes Back during the Luke and Vader fight, he does a little spin that's pretty unnecessary on Bespin.
And all
Uh
Darth Maul does in Duel of the Fates is
all
spin.
he does is spin around. So this is just a ridiculous criticism. Spingate is ridiculous. I made this little slideshow because I thought it was funny, but that wasn't even nearly my big complaint. Like that
Okay.
was I thought I chuckled, I thought it was funny, completely forgot about it
Yeah.
until people started complaining about it on Twitter.
Okay. So your biggest complaint, are
My
you
actual
talking
biggest
about
complaint.
are we talking about King Kong? Are we
What?
talking about the King Kong moment?
No. Why
Oh,
would
okay.
I liked the King Kong moment.
Okay, so what's your biggest complaint?
You actually already said it. I didn't know if it was a spoiler or not. My biggest complaint is that they sidelined Fennec too much.
Yes.
I wish she was in the episode more.
Yeah.
Yep.
She is obviously the most badass woman in anything ever, I think.
Yeah.
The part where she just obliterated all the Pikes and family leaders and she like garroted Mok Shais was insane. And it was I love Fennec so much. I wish she had a more like concrete arc throughout the show. I wish she
Yeah.
was in it more.
Hmm.
She was really
Mhm.
advertised as the deuteragonist of the show, but I just wish she was in it more. But
Yeah.
the things we got from Fennec were top notch. I just wish she was there a little more.
Yeah.
The it's also worth mentioning that the Scorpion droids, the big droidica giant guys, were an unused concept from Attack of the Clones, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I loved them, loved the episode. I've got more specific thoughts, but I've taken up enough time with my stupid gag, so let's move on.
You didn't take up enough time. You're good. So, Allie, I want to get your thoughts. You can talk about Spingate if you want to. You don't have to.
Hashtag Spingate.
But if you actually want to talk about the sidelining of Fennec Shan, I think that that's like the main thing that we should talk about real quick here. And then we'll get into like the action sequences and just the finale as a whole. And I'll go with Allie, then I'll go with Jane, and then I'll go with John here. Allie, your thoughts on Fennec Shand being sidelined in this show?
First off, I will say, catch me spinning in Star Wars. I've got no problem. I will say it here and now. I've got no problem with spinning in Star Wars. I'd probably spin if I was in Star Wars too, you know, like
We all would.
living my best life, being awkward and goofy and stuff. So, but back to topic. Fennec, yeah, as I said earlier, that was like one of the points that I really took away from the finale where I was like, oh God, I wish he was there more. Like, even when I rewatched it again today before we recorded, and I was like, oh wow, she actually isn't in this much. Like, I noticed it the first time, obviously, but I think rewatching it, I really noticed it. And like you were saying, like it's really unfortunate because she was so prominent in like not only the promotion but like in like the story, even though she before there were still limits of her character, it finally seemed like it was building it up more, especially with the episode we got before we took our little detour. We finally got like the like the flashback to him finding her, healing her, all that. So it was like, oh yes, more Fennec content, here we come. And then like obviously we saw where that led. And honestly, the one thing I've been saying on my podcast over and over since the series started is I just wanted more episodes. I think that could have helped to some degree with this issue. But obviously we got what we got, and I really do wish they had given her more time to shine, because like you all said, when she did shine, she shined very brightly, and it's unfortunate that it was so limited though.
Yeah, it's sad to see. Well, I wouldn't say it's sad, but it's impressive to see somebody that is considered a quote unquote secondary character in the show, even though she isn't a secondary character in the show. I think she's one of the prominent characters in the show. Outshine your title character, it's saying something. It says something to just her acting ability and to the direction that she was given. Jane, your thoughts on Fennec Shand being sidelined?
Yeah, I felt it more in the finale than I think I like did anywhere else. But even I think she just deserved like a good like flashback episode, whether that be like a full episode or whether they just like give her some more time somewhere. Like I feel like the episode where Boba finds her, it would have been really interesting to do that whole thing as a Fennec flashback with Boba as she like learns, and you can just like learn some more about her before she got like shot, or just like who she was as a character. And then like in the finale especially, I felt like while it is my favorite scene in the finale is when Mando and Boba are fighting like on their jetpacks and like they have that amazing moment. I'm just like, this should be Fennec though. Like it's her and Boba. Like it should be like Boba's essentially covering her with like Beskar armor while he's fighting, and she's like sniping from behind, and like they should be working as a team. It should be the two of them. And I was just like, I don't know. It just felt very weird that she got sent on like a side quest that like also at the same time wasn't like super necessary. Like it's not like those guys were telling everyone what to do or like anything. Like I would have also like totally accepted at the end like Boba just shows up before they get on a ship to escape or something and like did it instead of Finnick being gone the entire time. I don't know. I was very disappointed by that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. John,
Mm.
your thoughts on Fennec Shand?
I mean, I've already said it. I think she deserves her own show.
Yeah.
She is a character that I agree with everyone here. It was very underutilized. From episode 1, she made a major impact in this series. All the way through her mod episode, which I thought was pretty cool. She definitely needs to play for that WD-40 sponsorship coming up next to keep those gears going. But other than that, I mean, that last scene with her taking out everybody uh, in that room where the Pike Syndicate leader was just filthy in like
Yeah.
every good way possible. Like super
Yeah.
stealth, just coming in there, taking care of business, not batting an eye. Nobody knows what's going on until they're dead.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was such a powerful moment for that character.
Yeah.
I mean, she easily is like the star, the unsung star, I should say, of this series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love everything about Fennec. She's great.
Yeah.
In a way, there's no amount of Fennec that isn't enough Fennec.
Correct.
I
Correct.
agree. I agree.
Yes, yeah.
So let's move on now to we got to talk about the reunion between Mando and Grogu. Um, John and I were not big fans of them doing the whole Grogu subplot for this show. Um,
Or Luke, or
or
Mando.
Luke. I will say this: the reunion is cute. It's my wife teared up when she saw Grogu under the blanket, and then he just like when he lights up when he sees Mando and everything. I
Oh,
think
I
that's
was
great.
bawling.
Um, I still think the scene where Grogu is in the little bubble in the N1 and he keeps tapping on the glass to like make it go faster, I think is brilliant. I think that's so well done. I yeah, I will say this. I really feel like Pelimoto and the droids and Grogu could have just stayed in Mos Eisley. Like, I don't really feel like they did anything like Pelimoto just like bonds with the Major Domo, which I think is, don't get me wrong, I think that's a great bit. I
It's so
think that's
I
a
funny.
great
love
bit.
the Major Domo.
I
Yeah.
think
He's
they
so
were.
good.
He
I think they
is.
were really good comic relief.
Oh,
I,
they were. They
I
were.
loved her. I loved her Jawa gun. She was using
Oh
a little
yes.
Jawa rifle.
Yeah.
And it all goes down when like the Rancor comes into play, and I gotta say that scene with Boba Fett finally riding this Rancor, my wife will tell you I lost my shit. Like I lost it. I was like, you know what? Let's go. Like let's effing go. Let's do this.
This
and it ends up being Pacific Rim essentially, with the Rancor winning. Your thoughts on the reunion and Boba Fett riding a Rancor? Before we get into that, Princess and Scoundrel and also Dark Smack said, didn't Mando do it right before this scene with the I forget what it was again, but Princess and Scoundrel said, I think it's leading up to her having a bigger role in the future, whether it's season 2 or her own show. Yeah, I think Fennec Shan will get a bigger role in a Star Wars project very, very soon. Okay. I'm gonna go with Luna, I'll go with Jane, I'll do Allie, and then I'll do John. Your thoughts on the reunion and Rancor?
So that scene with the Rancor, where it had just gotten done beating the crap out of these giant droids, where it was just wiping pikes off the floor. And then we saw Cad Bane come in and shoot flames at the Rancor. That felt like you're playing with action figures to me. That was very like you've got all of these really cool action figures, and they're all fighting each other, and
Yeah,
it was so cool. I
it
was
was.
I was so hyped, and
Yeah.
I couldn't believe we were getting it. One of my favorite bits was the Rancor picking someone up, Boba shooting them, and then just throwing him.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The
that's so
Wilhelm
great.
scream.
I
Uh,
I I also remember the Rancor picking up the dude and then just straight up eating him. I was like,
yeah.
he's just gonna eat this guy. It's gonna be great.
Um, the reunion scene. Obviously, I was like sobbing during.
Yeah,
I was I can't handle that sort of stuff. I was just crying my eyes out. It was so adorable. I loved it. I know that perhaps it shouldn't have been in this show, but at
yeah,
that point, I couldn't bring myself to care. I was too invested.
yeah.
um,
I get it.
perhaps perhaps it shouldn't have been in the show, but it was there in front of me, and I couldn't bring myself to like care about that while I was watching it happen. Um, the droids were so cool. The Rancor looked so good. I was a little bit worried about that, but it was like you could tell that like the head was a puppet, and
Yeah,
really that really made it grounded, and it really made it feel like it was there, and it blew me away. It was awesome.
yeah. Jane, go ahead. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. The reunion, I was glad they did it once they did like all the Mando stuff they did. I'm like, if you're gonna do this, then do the whole thing. Don't like do like part of it or half of it. Like I kind of would have rather that like none of the Grogu and Luke stuff had been in
Yes.
there. But if you're gonna do it, definitely do the reunion. Don't like leave it halfway because then it just feels like this dangling thread that like isn't purposeful. So I was glad he was there. I loved seeing R2. I thought it was very funny that like Luke just like threw him in an X-wing by himself and
Yes.
was like, "Go get
Yes.
like you're done." I thought that was very strange.
Get out of here.
Yeah. You know what? I did like having like Pelly there just because like I think Pelly like works really well with that cast of like I love when like they're just riding on the back of the droid and like she's yelling at it and Mando's shooting. And it's just like it seems like real like Star Warsy chaos. Like I
Yeah.
did love all that. The Rancor was super cool. I really loved that the Rancor didn't just like come in and like one hit, bam, the droids are done, we're all
Yes.
good. Like we did it. It was a fight which I didn't expect. I thought it was going to be like a Godzilla like stomp, done. Okay, we fixed the problem. So yeah, I really loved that. The one thing that actually both Grogu and the Rancor I didn't like is I didn't like that Grogu stopped the Rancor just
Yeah.
because I feel like Boba should have done that. Like that would have been
Yeah.
a big thing for the people of Mos Eisley to like see him like, oh, this is the only guy who like stopped the monster and like controlled him. But instead, like Grogu's just like doing his like hand thing and like snuggling up, and I'm like, it's super cute. I do love this. I love it so much. But I kind of wish Boba had done like
Yeah.
something else. Yeah.
Yeah, before I get to you, Allie, that's actually a really great point here because they spend that one episode building up the fact that Boba Fett is going to help
Yeah.
train this Rancor. Why not be? I mean, and like they show Boba bond with the Rancor itself. Why wasn't? And that's the question I asked too. I was like, why wasn't Boba the one to bring like to calm this guy down?
Hmm.
Allie, go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely agree with like what both of you said. Like, while my Rebels loving heart loved it because, like, Ezra connecting with animals, my whole heart was like, oh my god, it's another Force user connecting with animals, my heart.
Yes.
Well, I like that gave me feels. I'd still definitely love that you guys brought up the fact that like it wasn't Boba. That was a bit weird, especially because it wasn't even like Fennec or like one of the characters that was like introduced through this show. It was a Mandalorian character, which that's a whole another conversation. So like to summarize, I loved it. I loved it so much, but I agree with the fact that it was a bit disheartening that it wasn't Boba, especially because, like you said, like we did see that scene where like Boba was bonding with the Rancor, so like there was a connection there where he could come and be that same kind of Force. Like obviously it wouldn't work the same way because it's not like the Force versus like emotional connection, but it will have the great impact, especially because like you guys brought up like the citizens and it's been a thing like throughout the series, and while like he does constantly say I'm not leaving, I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna stay in the streets and help my best, like that's just another scene way you could show like this is him continuing to build the respect and earning the faith of the people. And then in terms of the reunion scene, again, loved it so like that's kind of the thing with me in this finale. I'm like, these are the best. I love them. I was sobbing. Like it's so sweet and pure. But at the same time, again, valid points that like it's a bit hard, but like what Jane said, like if they were going to put Mando and Grogu in the series and do all of this, it was kind of like worth it to have that followed through to the very end.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I also like I think I've seen some people say like you should have still saved it for Mando season 3. But I think that's maybe the one critical point of it, because people did bring up how like there was all this emotional weight to like Grogu leaving in season 2, and here he is already back with Din. So I get people's like criticism around that, but like with the direction they took, I think it worked okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. John, your thoughts, and then we're gonna get to the major showdown in this episode.
Yeah.
John, go ahead, John.
So starting off with the reunion, I didn't mind it. I mean, it had to happen, but I think it would have been more dramatic and had a bigger impact if Din didn't know until that moment where Grogu pulls the bolt out of the droid's leg and saving Mando before it crushes him. Like if that moment happened and then Din looks back and sees Grogu there,
Yeah.
I feel like that's like that crescendo moment that would have had everybody in tears at that moment. Just, yes, we know Grogu's on planet, but that moment right then and there would have been absolutely massive. And that's just the way I envisioned it after I watched it. Again, I'm not a huge fan that he was in this series, but I have to accept that he was. So cool, great. I thought it was very odd when they had their reunion in the middle of an all-out city war.
Yeah.
But, reunions happen at the most fun times, right?
Yeah.
Then for the Rancor, I'm just going to say I wanted more.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't, but I want more. Like I wanted Boba Fett on the Rancor demolishing everything.
Yeah.
Not just the droids. I like knocking, like absolutely going full Godzilla on the town, smashing buildings and just causing all this havoc. I wanted to see pure destruction from this Rancor tearing down the Pike Syndicate. That's what I wanted. I mean, I got a little bit of it. I wanted more. That was my problem, was I was expecting that moment to be a lot bigger than what it was.
Yeah.
And that's on me for expecting too much. I do apologize for having high hopes, setting my bar too high. Should have knocked it down a few notches there, but I liked it. Overall, I was satisfied with Boba Fett on the Rancor.
Yeah.
I 100% agree it should have been Boba Fett calming the Rancor down. Cool, awesome. Grogu, this little kid who's secretly 55 years old or whatever, calming down a gigantic beast. But I feel like they really lost that story point of the Rancor bonding with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Having that big moment where he calms the Rancor down and the townspeople seeing him being the ultimate savior of their town. So I feel like there were just a lot of missed opportunities with both of those scenes.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree there. I actually agree with what you were saying about the Grogu reveal. It should have been when he saved Mando from the droid. I think that would have been like it would have had a bigger impact.
That
Sarah and
had me in
Steven
tears.
yeah, Sarah and Steven are actually going to join us here in just a couple of minutes. I think that they are getting ready and coming in here. Um, let's get to the showdown now because this to me was the highlight of the episode, and that is Boba versus Cad Bane. And I got to tell you, I thought Cad Bane had the upper hand in this fight for a very long time until Boba channeled his inner Tusken Raider
God.
and 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 then killed Cad Bane, which I think okay, I I love Cad Bane being in the show. Hate that they killed him.
Turn off your phone.
I am. Oh, there's somebody here. Hi.
Yeah, yeah. Sarah joining. Sarah and Steven are joining us.
Hello.
Let me just say,
Hey guys.
I'm actually of sort of the opposite opinion. I'm glad he died. I'm really glad he was in the show. I'm glad that Boba killed him, and I'm glad Boba killed him in the way that he did. I think that it was the perfect culmination of Boba's sort of arc as a Tusken Raider, and as Cad Bane was like mocking him for not going it alone. Then he sort of counters that with the family thing, just smacking him, stabbing him. And I think that's sort of minimized a bit if Cad Bane isn't dead. And like we had his little life alert monitor beeping at the end there, but
I forgot about that.
he's an old man. He's got life alert. But
He's like 80 years old in that scene.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
he's like,
forgot
I think
about
he's
the life
71.
alert.
He's got like a little life alert at the end.
Yeah.
I hope that he's still. I hope that he's still dead. I think that it. I love Cad Bane. I hope we see him more. I hope it's in the past.
Yeah.
I think that this is a very good culmination of their whole story.
Yes.
Mhm.
Let's hear from our two other guests real quick, and then I'll get to Allie, and then I'll get to Jane, and then I'll get to John. Sarah and Steven, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here, by the way.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's. I hope that you guys have a good time tonight. Your thoughts on the Boba Fett finale and Cad Bane eating it at the end?
Well, I think it was a life alert type of situation, so I think we're safe there.
I've fallen.
The sentiment is the same. I've been kind of like listening to you guys.
Mhm.
I think those two Mando episodes could have came as like a special, maybe a month down the road,
Yeah.
a la Clone Wars, like back in Boba Fett, and we could have had an intro like, hey, we're gonna get Mando. Some reason he's here, he's helping us, and maybe we see Grogu pop in somewhere, but had maybe 2 episodes of that battle, the big battle. We could have had 1 episode on Fennec, 1 episode on Boba, and they had to split up for whatever reason to take over. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot going on. Like, I feel like I vacillated between yelling, like, no, you can't do that. They can't die, to just like tears, like, oh my God, this is happening. Or, oh my God, they did die. Maybe they died. Like the Gamorreans. I don't know if you guys were talking about it. I missed like the last 10 minutes or so. Nobody's talking about the Gamorreans.
No,
Nobody's talking about
no.
True.
When they went over the
Please
edge,
talk about the Gamorreans.
please. When they went over the edge, I was like, no, come on.
They were his ride or die.
For real. They were very loyal the whole time, the whole series, and
I was worried they were
their
gonna
loyalty
betray
came
him.
to an end.
Yeah.
like to just like burn off, say, nah,
Yeah.
We're good, thanks.
I think Robert Rodriguez just got with Favreau and Filoni is like, who can we kill in this episode? Like, how can we start
Yeah.
the bodies just hitting the floor here?
I expected more, honestly. I expected to lose a lot more characters than we did. So of the cast that we were presented with this season, the Gamorreans made the most sense, but I felt it.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Allie, your thoughts on just including the Gamorreans dying? Like, now we got to throw that in there.
So many thoughts. Yeah, the Mandalorians, R.I.P. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
So glad that they didn't like betray or anything. Like at least that's the thing. They died, but they didn't betray, which I guess it's fell for the noble cause. I guess I don't know. But about the Cad Bane scene, one thing I want to bring up that actually touches on our Fennec conversation that I couldn't stop thinking about today after I rewatched the episode is like Cad Bane's final lesson. He says is like, look out for yourself. Anything else is weakness. And this just immediately made me think about like what Fennec even tells Omega about like looking out for yourself. That's like what you got to do in the galaxy. And like that's another way you could tie Fennec's character in more. I don't know. Like, and then it also for Boba as a character, it really does emphasize his journey again because like he's managed to find these different elements of family throughout the series and having that be like the big moment where it's like again trying to push him towards you just have to look out for yourself, that's all you got to do. He denies that. He's like, no, I'm not that person. He even says like when he's like taunting him, he's like, I'm not a little boy anymore, Cad Bane. You're not gonna make me go down my revenge Mace Windu path like I did in Clone Wars. Like I'm not gonna go murder everyone. Like I've grown, I've matured. Like yeah, I'm gonna kill you in this moment, but I am not that little boy. I'm not the same person. I want to have a family. I'm gonna rule with respect. Like just to see that whole emphasis of growth culminate in that moment, I loved it so much.
Yeah, that is actually a really cool moment. Part of me wishes that Fennec Shand would have hyped him up a little bit more and just been like, "He kidnapped your sister." like I just wanted her to be like, "He kidnapped your sister that you didn't even know about." Like,
Yeah.
then Boba
At
Fett
the
just
same-
goes to the fight confused, like, "What sister?" Like,
I wonder if Boba Fett's gonna show up in Bad Batch. That's kind of what I'm thinking why they didn't mention it. Because maybe he
Maybe.
already does know.
yeah, he might. Jane,
Maybe.
your thoughts?
My thoughts. I think I know Robert Rodriguez has been getting like a lot of like kind of crap online recently. I think this duel is like the perfect kind of encapsulation of like what he does well. I think like this really showed like him doing what he does well. I do think there are problems like overall in the series with like some of his episodes, but I think like this is like what shows like this is what he's really good at essentially. And I think the tension works really well. And yeah, I just love that Boba does take him down with a gaffy stick. The Mandalorian armor, all the gadgets, it just isn't enough for him. But like his tribe, like his support, like the person that he became after getting out of the pit, that's who defeats Bane. That's not because the other guy couldn't, essentially. And I think that's really interesting. The only kind of complaint I have, and I don't know if this is even really a complaint, is just they seem to reference back to like that Clone Wars episode that didn't happen, or like I don't know if that's what they are referencing or what they're not referencing, but I'm like, if like I know about that, I assume like everyone here kind of knows about that, but I'm like, if I was a general audience member, I'd be like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Like they know each other, like from where?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the one thing where I'm like, normally when it's that kind of stuff and they're like, oh, like they're calling back to Clone Wars or they're calling back to a book, I'm like, great, cool. It's opening things up. But I'm like, that's not even a released episode. Like, you can't even like go find that somewhere.
Yeah.
That's my only little complaint. And that's just very little. I don't, mind that too much. Mhm.
Yeah. John, go ahead. Bring us home on this one.
Here's your controversial hot take of the night.
All
Oh
right.
boy.
I would rather not have Cad Bane in this episode or in
Okay.
this series if you're gonna kill him off with like 8 minutes of screen time.
Mhm,
I feel like that does his character a disservice.
mhm.
I mean, the amount of hype that the community had when Cad Bane made his appearance, I feel like was equalized when, Boba Fett slams a stick through his chest in disappointment. Because it's like, that's a character that I feel like a lot of people have been waiting to see a live action version of for a while. And we finally got it. And we're never going to get it again, unless he gets his own spinoff somewhere else in the universe. Maybe you set him up to be the big baddie of season 2 if you think this show is justified to have a season 2 or not. Maybe you go down that route. The idea of Boba Fett going after Mace Windu pass. But is this one of those things where it's like that could have set up season 2 and we could have gotten more of another beloved Star Wars character that has that history that you can explore more about his influence with Fennec and Boba Fett, as bounty hunters in that universe. I feel like that could have been a better way of handling it. I think something else that bothered me a little bit, and it's more on the comedical side here, is I feel bad for the Mighty Morphin Vespa Rangers because finally we see Boba Fett and Mando use their jetpacks.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, once again, that painfully slow Vespa speed bike chase didn't need to happen if Boba Fett found his ignite button on his backpack and just used his jetpack to fly in. If I'm them and I'm sitting there, I'm seeing Boba Fett come flying in on a jetpack. I'm going, come on, really now? Like now you're going to use it?
We had in that episode Boba Fett landing after them, so it was always my assumption that it was more of a test for them.
Yeah.
Well, and I understand that, but at the same time, it's like that was the only time we saw him use it was landing.
Yeah.
Was just landing. Nothing landing. Now he's using it in an offensive tactic. He's flying, he's crossing. They're over here doing synchronized flights with Mando in the air. They're like spelling out words in the sky, drawing peace doves and everything else in the skies of Tatooine.
Like
and
show.
I'm just like, yes. And like if I'm the Vespa Rangers down there, I'm just going like, my circuits are overloading watching this right now. Like, really? Like, now you're going to do this? He's flying. Okay, cool. This is great. We're down here getting shot at, and you guys are over there, like, literally, like, making a heart in the sky and everything. Like, come on. Give me a break.
They were reserving fuel. That's what they were doing.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Fuel, yeah.
Probably not very much on Tatooine.
But yet, Boba Fett could use all of that fuel to jetpack back to Jabba's palace to get the Rancor. Like that's,
just saying.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Just saying. Should have taken the Vespa. That's all I'm saying.
Or at least Fennec's bike. Like, come on. So I actually wanna talk about characters like Cad Bane and Black Chrysanthemum that showed up in the show, and then we're gonna wrap it up, and then we're actually gonna talk to Sarah and Steven here about Star Cruiser and Disney parks and all sorts of fun stuff. With these characters like Cad Bane and Black Chrysanthemum showing up, if you don't watch Clone Wars or Rebels or Bad Batch, or if you're not reading the comic books or the books, like I had a lot of people that were casual Star Wars fans, like at work, that were asking me like especially like when Black Chrysanthemum showed up, they're like, "Who's this guy?" And I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you about my boy Black Chrysanthemum." And then
Santo.
Yeah, and then Cad Bane shows up, and people are like, "Well, who's this guy? Where's he been?" Do you think, like, as much as we as fans love Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, like, really connecting the dots here, is it too much fan service now? Like, if you've been a fan of these shows, and is it becoming inaccessible for the casual viewer? And I want to start with Steven and Sarah, and then go with John. Then I'm going to go with Luna, Jane, and Allie. Steven and Sarah, like, what do you think about that?
So I'll start off. So we're more like screen fans. We watch the TV shows, we watch the movies, the comics and the books and stuff like that. We're still getting into. So when Black K showed up, we were like, that's a cool character, but took us some time to actually understand who he was. I do have a friend that reached out to me and they're like, what is going on with Boba Fett? They're like, Mando was cool, but Boba Fett, I don't get it. And I was like, you don't watch enough Star Wars to really understand the backstories and the animated series and all of these characters that are coming into it. I said, it may not be the show for you. Mando was if you've never watched Star Wars before and you want to get into it and you want to see cute little baby Yoda, great gateway into Star Wars. Boba Fett was not that show. It was a lot of fan service, but I think having Dave Filoni have a hand in it, and really this just being Filoni's world that we're living in now, it's fantastic. And I think from the people that I know that maybe don't watch the shows, but just watch the films in Mando, they still get enough out of it. So it just depends on what level of fandom you are. and how much you're going to get out of what you're enjoying. If you're a super hardcore fan and you knew who Black K was, and you knew what he's done and what he meant to Boba, fantastic. But if you didn't, like us, you were like, that's a super dope character. Like, can't wait to learn more about him.
Well, and then it made me want to go like, let me learn more about him.
Yeah.
And I think that was, how we talked about, me seeing Cad Bane, or, the big one was Mando last season when Ahsoka came out. We're flipping out. We're going crazy seeing Ahsoka, and my brother-in-law is just like,
He's like,
who's this guy? Who's this person? And I was like, oh my gosh, you go watch the cartoon. But that's the great part. Now everybody is like, they're making us watch the cartoons. It's like, well, no, you should have watched them. Like, I know they're cartoons, they're animated, but there's so much story. They were able to take their time, give us little bite size, and so much story there that everything now we kind of can piece it together from episodes in Clone Wars, in Rebels, in Bad Batch. Like, everything kind of is somewhere connected, and people that are in the know kind of feel special because we've been paying attention to it, and
I feel like hipster about it.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I watched that. But the people that are just getting into it or watching just the big stuff, they could enjoy it. They get the mods. We didn't know anything about them.
Yeah.
And they could see that and, oh, that's awesome, and appreciate it. But
yeah, I agree with that. Who wants to go next? I think I had an order. I kind of lost my train of thought. I apologize. Allie, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. Like, I kind of have had to do this with like the High Republic in a way, because I just don't have enough time or enough financial resources to keep up with all the comics. I've kept up with all the books, but like, so obviously I've had to step back in that way where I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna know all of these characters. I'm not gonna remember all of these characters because I didn't read the comics. I'm not gonna have all the context, but I can still enjoy the parts that I do understand. Like you guys were saying, like, you can still take the time to be like, oh, I do enjoy this and that and this and that. And like, obviously you're not going to get every single little element, but as you were saying, it also inspires us to like check out the animated shows. And as someone who loves animation and loves the animated shows, that makes me happy to know that people will be more interested to check those kinds of shows out. The cross side of that argument that I hope is not the case is that this isn't primary. I don't want to go down a tangent, but this isn't like their way of just saying, okay, we're just going to completely abandon animation by throwing them all in live action now. Like, I know that's a whole nother conversation, but it's like, focus on the positive side of it, where I'm like, okay, they're going to go check out the animation. I just hope that that's not a sign that they're going to just abandon the animation by putting them all in live action. But that's obviously a different conversation. And yeah, but I'm still really glad that people could still find levels of enjoyment. And like, as you guys were saying, there's like certain shows that work for some people, certain shows that don't work for others. Like, I still remember towards the beginning of the show seeing a number of people saying like, this doesn't work for me, but it works for other people, so I'm happy with that. And so I really respected people who said that and were able to step back and be like, it's not my show, but it's other people's show, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Luna, go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to apologize. It seems that I am legally required for my Discord to crash once per show.
Absolutely.
But I'm because it's happened a single time every show I've been on. But I'm back now.
We're past it now.
We're past
You're good.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
Good. You're here.
Anyway,
there's the lemon juice.
So I'm actually in a bit of interesting position here because I know a lot about Star Wars and I've always been very involved in the expanding universe, but I didn't really get into comics until earlier in 2021 when with the High Republic comics. I'm like, oh, I want to read more High Republic and I want to read more Star Wars comics in general. So I didn't actually know who Black Chrysanthemum was. And when I saw him, I didn't think, oh, who's this guy? Why are you making me read the comics? I'm like, oh, cool, a Wookiee. I was so hyped. I'm like, oh, this is a really cool looking Wookiee bounty hunter. And that's
with the eyebrow, right?
Yeah. And that's like all I felt like I needed to know at that point. And then I learned later from Twitter this is like an actual guy, and I'm like, oh, cool. I'll move like Dr. Aphra and all these other things up my list so I can read this sooner because I really like Black Chrysanthemum. I want to see more of him in other media. So I think it does strike a delicate balance, but I think at least the Book of Boba Fett did a good job in making these returning characters, there's something to enjoy if you don't know who they are immediately, but you feel rewarded if you've already experienced the media they're from. Like even with Cad Bane, if you haven't watched the Clone Wars or the Bad Batch, oh cool, weird blue-skinned gunslinger guy who's working for the Pikes. Um, and there's sort of an implication that he knows Boba from a while ago. But I still feel like that's enough if you don't know who he is. There's enough to enjoy there. You still understand what the message is. You still understand how this is the culmination of Boba Fett's arc throughout the show.
Yeah.
And I think they've done a very good job of that in the show in general, about striking that balance. And if going back to the Mandalorian, when we have Ahsoka, oh, there's a Jedi. He was trying to find a Jedi. Here's a Jedi, a very cool Jedi. If you don't know who Ahsoka is somehow, you're still getting something out of that. This is the first
Yeah.
Jedi we've seen in the show,
Yeah.
and she's really cool. So I feel like they've done a very good job. I think they've
Yeah.
done a good job with that.
John, I'll get your thoughts and then I'll go to Jane. John, your thoughts on just this whole question in general. Like, do you think like it's not as accessible for the casual fan?
So I guess it really comes down to when we talk about fan service, obviously you are trying to connect with a certain group of fans in that fandom. The fan service we got in the Book of Boba Fett was definitely for the diehard Star Wars fans that pay attention, that watch everything, that read the comic books, the novels, and everything outside of whatever we see on our television and movie screen. That just goes to my bigger issue with this series overall, being that leading up to the launch of this series, we had Disney, coming out with, the history of Boba Fett and how this character that had so little screen time in the original trilogy had such a major impact on the fandom, how he developed as a character and why he's getting his own spinoff. And then we get this series of Boba Fett and it really doesn't go anywhere. And then when it starts to get some traction of direction of where the story is going to go, we get the start of Mandalorian season 3, smack dab in the middle of it. And then we have a finale. So that fan service, I almost feel like, and I may be completely wrong, this is just the way I interpret it, so I know it's my opinion and I could be completely off here, is that fan service was to make the diehard Star Wars fans that are very invested in that universe happy. Because, I don't know, to me it just felt like this entire series was lost. If you're going to sit here and create a series to give more of a background on Boba Fett, to give more of an idea of where Boba Fett was, how Boba Fett became to be who he is today, and trying to establish his dominance on Tatooine, okay, that's great, but that's not what we really got. Like, I was a big fan of all those flashbacks in the first several episodes of the Book of Boba Fett that did a great job establishing how we got out of the Starlight pit and building him up to where he was. But as soon as you finally started getting some traction going forward, Mando, Luke, Ahsoka, and Grogu all make a 2.5 episode appearance. And it feels like Mando got put on the back burner. So how do you make people happy? You give them what the people want, a live action Cad Bane. You get Black Chrysanthemum thrown in there also. It makes people happy to see these characters brought to your television screen in live action. Now, is that just to shut the fans up? Is that just to make them happy that now Cad Bane, one of the greatest bounty hunters in the entire Star Wars universe, gets killed off in 8 minutes of screen time? I'll leave it up to everyone's individual opinion here. I personally didn't appreciate it. I wasn't a huge fan of them killing him off. But it definitely was fan service, and I think it was fan service that may backfire in the long run in terms of Book of Boba Fett. And I feel like that might be a one of many reasons why there won't be a season 2 of Book of Boba Fett, was just because of how the entire thing played out, sprinkled with fan service throughout the last 3-4 episodes.
Yeah, I can see that point there. Jane, go ahead and bring us home on this one. We're gonna get overall thoughts just on the season, and then we're gonna dive into our other main topic here.
Yeah. I personally think fan service is like just a super tough thing in general. Especially I think what it becomes very tough here is like this is something that's still somewhat connected to the original trilogy, you know? Like it's still a character from like the old movies. And like I think about it in that like I had a guy at work like come up to me like after the 4th episode, he's watching it with his son and he's like, "Are they ever going to explain how Boba Fett got into that pit? Like what happened to him?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, like this guy like watched Return of the Jedi 20 years ago. He doesn't remember it." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, like." But then, like, you have people like me who is like, well, where's the Hut from Cobb Vanth's town? Like, we haven't seen him from the Aftermath books. And I'm like, not that I actually care about that, but I'm like, yeah, like, there are, like, little things. And there's just, Star Wars is so complicated with, like, the tiers of fans or, like, the tiers of engagement. Like, there are people who, like, don't care that much, but they're like, I just want to watch, like, a Boba Fett show. And, like, with a character like that who's connected to the original trilogy, like, bringing all the like outside stuff in at the same time as like you still have to attach it back to the original films and like keep it cohesive to some extent, that's got to be like incredibly tough.
Yeah.
And like I think Black Chrysanthemum's a good example of like just a character, he shows up, gives gives Boba an evil look, and you're like, bad Wookiee, great,
Yeah.
perfect. Like that's all we need to know. Like nobody walks up to him and is like, "Hey, how's Dr. Afra? How's 000? How are they doing?" Like there's not like that level of like kind of crap with him, which is why I do feel like Cad Bane. It's like, okay, now you're kind of referencing stuff that like you can't just go watch on Disney Plus. Like you're referencing like an abandoned section of Clone Wars that never came out or maybe did, or like there's the metal plate, but like is that before or after? And it's just like, okay, like that might be like a little much. Although I do think we'll see more Cad Bane. I think him dying is okay. He's 80 years old. I don't think there's going to be that many more stories with him. If you bring him into Boba Fett, he kind of has to die. Like I don't know how you get out of that with that personality that Cad Bane has. And I think the fact that they like made a suit and like got the voice acting to like work with the suit means that we could probably see a lot more of him. He could show up in Andor, probably not Obi-Wan. Maybe I don't know any of the shows that are set before this. He can now show up. Like there is a live action suit of some kind.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have one final thought on Cad Bane, and then we'll get into our final question of this Book of Boba Fett topic here.
Mhm.
I wish the hat would have been bigger. Just
Absolutely.
just wish that hat
Yep.
would have been
Criminal.
bigger. You know?
Somebody on Twitter said that it was his HP bar. It gets smaller and
Yeah,
smaller throughout
as
his
he
series.
gets older.
And he could only be defeated when his hat was so small.
Yeah,
It was his HP bar.
yeah. Actually, one of my coworkers asked if that was Thrawn at one point, and I was like, "Really?" They're like, "Is that Thrawn guy that Ahsoka was talking about?" Yes, that's totally.
Yeah, it's Thrawn. Don't worry. He's Thrawn.
Now we know who's the first to go when layoffs come back.
Yeah,
for your company.
exactly,
It's time to go,
exactly.
bud. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry. You referenced Cad Bane as Thrawn. You've got to go, bud. Like,
Mhm.
that's why I'm not in charge of my department. Anyway, so this series seemed to be all over the place, like with its tone, with the story and everything. And a lot of people, and this goes back to Spingate that we talked about earlier. A lot of people say that
Despicable.
Robert Rodriguez should never direct another Star Wars project again. And I'm sorry, this isn't Robert Rodriguez's fault. The problems with this show aren't necessarily his fault. It comes down to Favreau and Filoni, really, with the writing. Because they start to build this up, and I'm not bashing Favreau and Filoni. I mean, they've revitalized Star Wars in such an amazing way, and like they've given a lot to the fans. I mean, I trust them with most of the Star Wars stuff. This show to me was kind of a letdown because I wanted the criminal underworld and I didn't want to see Jedi. And what did we get? We got glimpse of the criminal underworld and we saw Jedi. Your thoughts on I mean, did Favreau and Filoni have too much influence on this show outside of just the writing? Like, do you think like they just like told Robert Rodriguez and like Bryce Dallas Howard and like a few of the other directors like what to do? Like too
Uh,
much?
I do.
I Go
You
ahead.
Go first. You go first.
Okay. I feel like part of this is the fact that obviously there were people who didn't know but from the day of the investor thing, this was semi-advertised as a Mandalorian tie-in show. And I feel like because it was a Mandalorian tie-in show, that did really play into that aspect of like the role that Favreau and Filoni, like obviously they're having a lot of influence on Star Wars lately, but I think the fact that it was like a Mandalorian tie-in show, that definitely was a big contributing factor as to like why that influence was increased. So to that level of it, I understand, but I do think there's a whole conversation you could have about the whole Mandalorian tie-in show thing. But I do, to like some of what I currently have a thought of, it's just like, I think it helps for their part of that Mandalorian tie-in show, but I definitely agree for like the rest of the show, it should have been more pushed towards other creatives. Yeah.
All right, Luna, you were going to share your thoughts.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I personally think that a lot of my problems with the show would be pretty easily resolved if it had just been advertised as an ensemble show rather than a show about Boba Fett. Because that's more or less what this is. This is an ensemble show. We've got Boba Fett, yeah, we've got Fennec, but then we have all of those Jedi and Din coming in, and we even had comic characters like Black Chrysanthemum coming in. And I think that if it was more geared towards that in the advertisement, my expectations would have been different. To the point about Favreau and Filoni, I am always going to be grateful for how they've changed Star Wars and how they've revitalized it in such a huge way. I do wish we could have a Star Wars TV show soon that doesn't have their direct influence, because they have a very specific sort of style of writing and introducing these characters from all across the Star Wars universe, and that's fine, but I think some shows are better without it. I think that perhaps they were a little overzealous in their desire to tie this into The Mandalorian. And whether or not this is a tie-in show, again, is a whole nother conversation. But I still think that Favreau and Filoni may have done the show better if Rodriguez had less collaboration with Filoni and Favreau. I think that would have done the show. I think that would have improved the show at least a little bit.
Yeah. Jane, your thoughts real quick, and then I'll go with Steven and Sarah, and then I'll go with John.
So with talking about that, I do agree that maybe like Rodriguez could have had some more influence. I got really interested in this whole thing, and I actually read Rodriguez's book that he wrote, A Rebel Without a Crew, about like how he makes movies, and I think it's very interesting. One of the things he talks about is he edits almost all of his own stuff, and like he does a lot of the music for his own stuff. This one, they kept the same editing crew from Mandalorian and stuff, and I think it kind of shows, especially in his episodes. I think it does feel like not as tight or like kind of like off, and I think like that kind of stuff you see. I also think like he tends to write a lot of his own stuff, and this was not like he had some writing involved, but also like Favreau and Filoni had like a lot of the writing involved, and I just feel like it feels kind of disjointed, and I feel like you feel that the most in his episodes that like he actually directs. You feel like something's just off, and it just isn't quite meshing. Like there's all the right pieces, and they're just not coming together. So yeah, that's kind of what I felt with him. I'd like to see him be able to edit or maybe like do his own thing. And I don't know if that's what he wanted. I don't know what actually happened, but that's kind of what I would have wanted to see.
Yeah. Sarah, Steven, your thoughts?
Well, see, I'm kind of with the same sentiment. I think those two episodes, I don't consider them Boba episodes. They're just Mando episodes.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like they put those episodes because Big Disney they feared that Boba wasn't going to be successful.
Yeah.
So they knew the majority of people knew Baby Grogu. They knew all these other characters that if we put this in there, people are going to blow their minds. And that's what happened. Those two episodes, it was the talk of the town. And then the finale ended up not being as big as it should have been, or it could have been. I don't know if it was something as far as the direction. I think Filoni, he knows this story. He knows what we're until we I don't know when his end is of the. I mean, this is Clone Wars, what 4.0 basically. It's just continuing that Clone War story, and he knows it. He knows it well, and as long as these characters are in it, he's going to be a part of it. So I don't think we're ever going to see that branch off until it's going to be High Republic or something else. But right now, he's got this on lock. Now, as far as Favreau's influence, he's, from his movies, we know he likes to reference older, more familiar things. So I think that's why we get those King Kong references and things that make us feel good because, oh, I remember seeing that in this movie, or this makes me feel like a John Woo movie, doing the spins and whatever. Like, I think he is very much like, I know what people like, and this is what they like. They like familiar things. And I think that's where, again, it maybe felt a little bit at ends with each other. One saying, hey, the story needs to go this way. This is what it needs to be. And another person's coming in, well, I want to direct it this way. Yeah. And then the producer saying, hey, we should do this because people are going to like it. And it might be
too many cooks.
Yeah, too many cooks. So.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I think you nailed it, but I would agree with what Luna was saying is that this should have just been branded Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, maybe even Ahsoka should have just been branded as like a Spice Wars or somehow Palpatine Returned series where it's just this big ensemble.
Spice Wars, I like that.
Spice Wars. Like Clone Wars, because Clone Wars wasn't about a single person. We all like to say it was the Ahsoka show, but there were so many characters that show dived into. And I think that's what's happening with this new era of programming that we're getting. But I think what the issue that a lot of us, or I don't want to speak for everybody, but that I've taken with it is we're building these series around a single character, The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka. And there's so many tie-ins that when you don't get an episode with Boba Fett, you're like, well, wait a second. I think if it had just all been one show, we wouldn't have the discussions we're having right now.
Yeah. No, I think that you all are nailing it perfectly with this. Like, there's too many cooks. Like, there's obviously too many cooks in the kitchen. John, bring it home, and then we're gonna get to some more fun stuff.
I'll try to be quick and take this in a different direction real quick because the points everyone's made is 100% valid, and I definitely agree. My other issue is with the story that's being told in these episodes. First off, I will never complain about getting Star Wars content. I will never complain about a Disney Plus series not living up to my expectations. And, even though I sit here and say, based upon this season, I hope there's not a season 2, just because I don't want Boba Fett's character to be diminished. If they make a season 2, I'm going to watch it because that's the time period we live in where we are getting all this amazing content. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to watch it regardless. But that being said, don't give me a 30-minute episode. If you cannot get to a point in the story that makes sense to stop and move into another episode, make it a 60-minute episode. I guarantee you there is nobody that is going to complain about a Disney Plus series that is a 1 hour, 10-minute episode every week. We're paying money for this subscription service. If you need it to be a longer episode, make it a longer episode. Nobody complained about the Bad Batch episode 1 being 90 minutes. If anything, they got praise for it being 90 minutes because the story they told required that time. Don't rush the story and try to pack it into a 33, 38, and 42-minute episode. If it needs to be an hour, make it an hour long. It just felt to me that one of my issues, again, with the sequel trilogies was some of the stories they were trying to tell were hurried. It felt rushed. They were resolved in 5 minutes versus, something that in my mind and a lot of people others' minds maybe should have taken, a large fight to resolve or 15, 20 minutes or some kind of a chase to resolve. With Book of Boba Fett, it was we're learning how Boba Fett got to where he was today. Okay, cool. Flashbacks, great. But at the same time, we're trying to tell the story of him getting his footing on Tatooine. And in the early episodes, it felt like you got one or the other. It was like 80% flashback, 20% what's currently going on, or 80% what's currently going on, and a little bit of flashback enough to confuse everybody and wait for episode 3 to come out. And then as soon as you start making traction with the story you want to tell, 2 Mando episodes.
Yeah.
And yes, like at the end of episode 4, we get it. We hear the Mando music. We know Mando's coming. But episodes 5, episode 6 literally had nothing to do with the Book of Boba Fett. It was more of Mando making his way to Tatooine, which, fun fact, he made it to Tatooine in episode 5 and then left Tatooine again. So if you're going to tell a story, tell the story, take the time to tell the story, make it an hour, make it an hour and a half long, an episode here and there, but tell the story and do the character justice. That's my biggest thing is you took Boba Fett and you watered that character down. And that's what has me upset. I enjoy this series. I really do. It's not my favorite. I'm probably not going to go back and rewatch it as much as I rewatch some of the movies and other Star Wars content. But at the end of the day, it's still great cinema. It's still great writing to a point and directing to a point. I just wish they told the story better and took their time with it.
I think that's really the whole crux of the show in general, is that it was good. It was an enjoyable show, but I feel like it had a bit of missed opportunity. It could have it could have taken its time more. And I think that's the main thing for me.
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement here. While we enjoyed it, it could have been better. It was still fun to watch. It's Star Wars. How are we not going to love Star Wars?
Pew pew.
Pew pew. I mean,
Never been a Star Wars I didn't love.
I mean, if Laura Dern can go pew pew in The Last Jedi, I mean, come on, So let's move on now. Sarah and Steven, thank you for joining us for that brief bit. We're probably going to go over 2 hours tonight, folks. I apologize for this, but it's fine. Even though I'm going to be wrecked sleep-wise because I got to wake up super early, but I don't care. So let's talk about you guys real quick. You have a podcast, Princess and Scoundrel podcast. I've watched your content. You guys are absolutely awesome. And you bring a lot of Star Wars news with the Disney Parks twist here. Sarah, I know that you are a Disney travel agent as well. And so, John, I believe that you have a question for Sarah.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. He was going to ask you how you sleep at night.
No. So look. If we're going to do the bit, we're going to do the bit right.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you justify to customers a $5,000 2-night expense to the Star Cruiser and still find time to sleep at night? It's a complete joke. It's 100% a joke.
No.
And still find time to sleep.
No, it's just great to have you guys on to talk about this. So let's talk about your podcast a little bit. You have 2 or 3 episodes in now?
3 episodes out, yep.
3 episodes out. That's awesome. And you guys are also getting ready for your Star Cruiser experience too.
Yes.
Now I have to ask you this question: how has podcasting been going for you so far? Pretty well, I take it.
It's a lot of work. So I guess we'll back up a little bit. So I became a travel agent back in the summer, focused primarily on Disney. We have been going to the parks a lot the last as much as we could the last few years with having a little one and then, the world ending. But decided to become a travel agent just through happenstance. And then news of Star Cruiser came out and we were like, oh man, like Star Wars at a Disney park. This is fantastic. Like learned everything that I possibly could and sold a lot of Star Cruiser voyages. And through doing that have met a lot of really cool people like yourselves and other YouTubers, Star Wars YouTubers and podcasters, and just built this really cool community that's helped us because this is something we've been thinking about doing, a podcast or a YouTube channel, something for a while. Steven streams on Twitch. He does video games. We used to do like trivia nights and all kinds of fun things, but we were trying to find the right way to put content out about the things we wanted to talk about. And so finally we landed, as a result of Star Cruiser, on doing a podcast that we share on YouTube as well. So it's on YouTube. You can look at our faces if you want to, or you can listen to it and just straight in your ear holes if you'd rather that way. But because of this community and the Star Wars community, we've been given a lot of support just like on the back end of like, how do we even start? How do we do this? And so we're very thankful that we're part of the Thank the Maker Network. They are another podcast that talks about Star Wars. Clearly, it's Thank the Maker. And so they've pulled us into their network and really helped us to get on our feet with podcasting. Because I can't take any credit for any of the podcasts. It's all Steven's doing. He does all the hard work.
I think that was that. It kind of just came together like our, like our marriage. I like the techie stuff. I was just more of like, here, I want to buy this microphone. I want to buy this. And this was just an excuse like, oh, yeah, we could start a podcast.
We can build a fake room.
I could get my nice computer and get it set up. And then now I had to pay the piper and start putting these episodes together and whatnot. But, as far as the Star Wars, I always tell Sarah that, tell her, she better say thank you to me, because if it hadn't been for me, like, force feeding her to watch Star Wars, like, here, watch this episode. This is a great episode.
Clockwork Orange with the eyelids open.
I was like, here, watch this. So, but no, she took to it, and she, but we have these same conversations. And then that's, I think, where the podcast came, is we have these same conversations, sitting down after an episode. And sometimes getting into heated debates, but
often, yeah.
but it's fun. It's fun talking about the stuff, and hopefully other people enjoy it too.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, as long as you enjoy it, that's what matters. Like, as long as you enjoy it, that's what matters. And Steven, I love that you're like that you're just like, let's do this. Like, let's just totally do this. I think that's awesome. Like, I've watched a couple of episodes. I've watched 2 episodes of your show. I still need to watch the 3rd one, but I love it. It's great because it's just a conversation, and it's a conversation between 2 Star Wars fans and 2 Disney Parks fans that are married and just happen to love this stuff. So I think that's great.
You.
Yeah.
I'd like to call out that it looks like Boba Fett is standing on your shoulder, Steven. I just realized.
It does. It does. So I believe we have a few questions from some people, and we're actually going to get into Star Cruiser here as well. We were going to ask like Disney Parks questions as well as Star Cruiser questions. Luna, do you want to take it away with your first question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So, to my knowledge, I'm the only one here who has never been to a Disney park.
We'll change that.
Yeah, I've never been to Batu. I want to, like it. But I'm the only one here who hasn't been even once. The closest I've been to a Disney park was Cedar Point because I lived near it. But and that's not even nearly comparable. So, so my question is, for somebody like me who's never been there before, where do I start? I don't have. I'm not exactly what you'd call financially flush at the moment. But if someone like me who didn't have that much money but really wanted to go to Batu specifically, where would I start to planning to go there?
So I think from a budget perspective, there are ways to make a Disney trip cheaper. You can ball out. You can spend $25,000 in a week at Disney. Were those tickets? Yeah, there was tickets involved in that one. You could spend a lot of money at Disney. You can also do it in a way that is not going to break the bank. A few of the ways, if you have a Target Red card, you can purchase Disney gift cards through them and you get 5% off. So you're getting 5% off of money that you would go spend at Disney. And you can use Disney gift cards for anything at Disney, for your room, your tickets, merch, food, everything. Another way to do that would be to stay off property. Disney property is fantastic. Being in the Disney bubble is fantastic, but staying off property is going to be a lot cheaper. And then you either just Uber to the park that you want to go to, or depending on where you go, there's some shuttles, or you could rent a car. Car rentals right now are kind of wackadoo. So maybe go with Uber.
I don't think I can even rent cars legally. I'm only 22.
Okay. So then we're going to do an Uber, or we're going to, you could do a shuttle bus depending on where you're going. But my recommendation would be to stay off site. The other way to do it fairly cheap, if you're just going to Batuu, you're going to spend the entire day at Hollywood Studios, which is where Batuu is located. Don't spend your money upgrading your ticket to a park hopper, because you can do a single park ticket and just have access to one park for that day, or you can do a park hopper so you can go to all 4 parks if you wanted to. It's almost double the price to do a park hopper. So you just do that single day ticket. And that way, as soon as those gates open, you're one of the first ones in line. You're in there and you're running to fly to Rise of the Resistance, and you're getting that done. And you're just spending all day on Batuu. Other ways to do Disney for cheap, although I would not recommend doing this if you're trying to go to Batuu and experience everything there is to do there, is to bring your own food and drinks. Because food is expensive in the parks. It can be. So definitely bring your own water, because you can buy a bottle of water at Disney for what, like $4 or $5.
Yeah.
Just drink the Florida tap. It's fine. Or bring your own water. It's not going to kill you. We've drank enough of it. But there are great food options in Batuu as well. Like the Ronto wraps are
So good.
So good.
they're so
Love
good.
it.
They're so good.
And I think that's one of the things, like, you want to try it.
You
Like,
want to try those
'cause-
things. There's things that you could definitely like pass on in Batuu that are expensive and maybe not worth your time or money, but
I know that there's like a cantina there or whatever.
Oh yeah.
you have to do that.
Yeah,
What's-
that
oh,
is
yeah.
worth
You have
the
to do that.
$100 you will
I
drop
guess
to
it has to
have
be
every drink in
$100.
there. 100%.
So good.
Per
So
person,
good.
probably.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
What's that one called again? Olga's or whatever?
Oga.
Ogas.
Oga.
Oga.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that was definitely on my list.
Oga's
Yes.
is an experience like no other.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So-
everything, honestly, everything in Galaxy's Edge is an incredible experience. It really does feel like you're transformed, except for the fact that people are walking around in like Mickey Mouse shirts and Mickey ears, which is where I think it's where I think Star Cruisers is going to differentiate, because I think it's really going to immerse you more into a Star Wars story than a Galaxy's Edge. But I feel like Galaxy's Edge is a great, not cheap way to experience Star Wars, but a much cheaper way to experience Star Wars than something like Star Cruiser.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Galaxy's Edge is what
I-
I'm personally interested in.
Stay off site. Go if you have a Target credit card. I'm not telling you to like get a credit card just for the sake of saving money at Disney. But if you do have credit cards, look at the ones that are going to save you money so that you can buy your tickets that way, or your food or your merch. That would be my recommendation. I don't
Yeah.
know if you have anything to add to that.
No, it's, if you can, it's every time seeing the
It's
Millennium
amazing.
Falcon is, takes my breath away. So I would always recommend at least once try to get out there to go see it, because it's just, glorious.
Stay, because during the day
You
it's really
can. You can
cool,
spend
and
the day
then
too.
at night, like if you just stay super late, one of the little hacks you can do is you can actually get a reservation at Oga's Cantina after park closes, and when you leave, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody there.
Um.
We actually, when we went the very first time, I think you were building your lightsaber with our son, and you got one of the last reservations of the day. And so I'm just like kind of walking around, because they only let 2 people. It's the person building the lightsaber and then one other person when you go in there. And so it was just me and like our 3-month-old daughter walking around, and everybody in the park was clearing out because they were doing fireworks in the front of the park. And I was like, well, I want to just stay here and enjoy. I've seen those fireworks. Like, I'm going to stay here and enjoy it. Dead. Like,
Yeah.
I could have taken all the pictures in front of Millennium Falcon that I wanted, and nobody would have been there. It was fantastic. So highly recommend staying as late as you possibly can.
Okay.
Yeah. My wife and I actually got a 9:45 p.m. reservation at Oga's when we were there in October, and we closed that place down. Like walking out of Hollywood Studios, it's like there's nobody. Like you could go anywhere in the park, but then there's like people telling you to like get to the
They're
exit.
kind of like
Yeah.
kindly ushering you out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Hollywood Studios in itself is just such a vibe, because it's just that old Hollywood. It's my favorite park. Even before they had Galaxy's Edge, it's
Yeah.
my favorite park. It's so good there.
I will also say don't exit through Toy Story Land because you lose the immersive experience. That's all I'm going to say.
Buzz Lightyear is not in Star Wars.
No,
What?
no.
No, he's in Star Trek, Joe.
Star Trek. I'm sorry, Star
yeah.
Trek.
God, why did I say
Zap
Joe?
Brannigan over there. But because I've been telling you about Joey too much.
Oh, that
Yeah,
might be why.
yeah.
I don't know why I said Joe. I apologize.
Who
Offense
else?
taken.
Yeah, offense taken. Who else actually has a question here for Sarah and Steven? It could be Disney Park question, Star Cruiser question, Star Wars question, what have you? Luna, go ahead.
I've got
Let's talk.
like a
Let's talk.
list here. I wrote
Yeah,
down
man,
a
let's
bunch of
go.
questions. This is
I'm
what I
ready.
just wrote down. So my fiance doesn't know much about Star Wars. She's not as much into it as I am. And I'm trying to figure out how to get them more into Star Wars. And for Steven, I know that you did the Ocean's 11 to your spouse. So I was wondering sort of if you had a good best hits moments in Star Wars to show to my fiance to make them a Star Wars nerd like me.
Make them.
I think the the original trilogies with Han and Leia, the love story, that was kind of the nice, like, I love you, I know type of situation.
To my knowledge, they've watched the main movies and like the first season of The Mandalorian and nothing else.
Well, and I mean, whatever appeals to them. If it's more of a action, then you're gonna want to do. I mean, Clone Wars is so great. I think that's where we just like sat and got to just like hang out. We were just watching, 30-minute episodes where we could just kind of. They weren't difficult episodes. Not a lot to grasp. It was just something to enjoy, to hang out with each other, and you could kind of make those moments like our moments. Like, oh yeah, remember when we were watching that episode? We said something funny, or it was a joke that we made, and I think that's where. Same thing when I talk about the relationship with my son, my daughter, is seeing when you introduce Star Wars to somebody and you get them to be excited about some kind of character. I think with Ahsoka, that's where you kind of like, oh man, this is like really cool female Jedi that we could actually like dig, and I thought she was awesome. So there was like a connection there that we could actually like enjoy a character together and not complain about, oh, she's too this or she's too that. It was just like, no, she's just a badass. Like, we like her.
Yeah.
But being able just to relate with somebody on whatever way, even if it's just watching it and it was like, hey, it was just nice hanging out.
Baby Yoda's so cute. Like, if that's who you relate with, go for it. But yeah, that's how you sneak it, is find a character that she's going to relate to and like just absolutely fall in love with and be like, hey, why don't we watch this? Seems kind of cool. I don't know, maybe. Just check it out.
I think part of the good thing about Clone Wars is that it's an anthology series. So I can just show them like specific arcs of the Clone Wars out of order. Like the Dathomir arc, that one's one of my favorites. Then we've got the Darth Maul stuff, and we've got, if I want, I can show her the droid episode for why ever I do that. But here's this one where Mace Windu and Jar Jar Binks are teaming up for some reason.
Don't knock that episode because it's
no, I won't. Bombad Jedi is really
great.
Bombad Jedi is a lot of fun, but
No, like Luna, all you have to do is sit her down and just straight face look at her and be like, "Have you ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?" And just go from there and just like slowly like have Alexa start playing like creepy music in the background and just go from there.
Luna
And it hook, line, and sinker every time. It works.
Luna just pulls out James Luceno's Legends novel of Darth Plagueis and just starts reading it to her fiance.
It's not a story a Jedi will tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Funnily enough, they do like reading books out loud to me, so that might be an in. I'm
There
trying to
you
use
go.
the High Republic as an in right now because they love reading,
Mhm.
and I've got all of these High Republic books on my shelf right here. They're right here. Why don't you read them?
And maybe that's it. Maybe it's not screen. Maybe it's books, or maybe it's the comics.
Yeah.
Maybe go take her to Build-A-Bear because they've got like, don't they have a bantha right now?
The ba-
I really want the bantha.
Yes.
Yes.
That's it.
And just
That's how
like-
I'm gonna do it. That's how I'm
Just
gonna do
like, yeah, just ply her with just like cuddly stuffed animals and just be like, don't you
That's-
want to know more about this?
it.
We can
Valentine's
drink
Day
its
is,
milk.
Like 24 hours away. We got
There you
this.
go.
They have the bantha, they have the Jawa, they have Grogu, and I think they have Ahsoka and Mando too.
What?
I don't think they
Is
have
the Boba
Ahsoka
Fett gone?
anymore.
Oh.
No?
Yeah, maybe. I know they came out with Ahsoka like a year ago, maybe. I don't know if they still have her.
Yeah, I think
I know
it was-
the bantha they still do because I really want the bantha.
the bantha
This
is
is
furry.
insane. I didn't even know about this.
And they
I
have a
didn't even know
Lothcat
about this.
too.
Oh,
Ooh,
that's
I
it.
didn't know
That's the
that.
one.
I want that.
That's the
Yeah.
one. That's the one.
You can order that one online actually. And my wife, like, as soon as it dropped, my wife like ordered it, and she's like, "I'm getting the Lothcat," and I was like, "No, stop, wait, don't do it." Like,
No, our wallet.
yeah, think of our
What
cat
about
and
the
trying to feed
money?
our cat. Like, she's like, "Oh, our cat's fine." Like, anybody have any questions? Anybody else have any questions?
Steven,
I
I
would
thought you
just
were raising your hand.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I should have raised my hand.
No, go ahead, Jake.
Would you say there's and I don't know if this is something you guys would know, but would you say just Batu related directly that there's any like major difference between Disneyland or Disney World doing it? I know once Galactic Star Cruiser opens, it really will like Disney World will have that obviously only, but any differences or anything to compare?
I would say the only difference is the food that's available. In Disneyland, they have a lot more food options that are available, more drinks at Oga's. Docking Bay 7, I think, has like 4 more food options.
Hmm.
So if you're going from a foodie aspect, Disneyland is going to be your place. Disney World, there's just so much more there. So if you're wanting to make a really big trip out of it, Batu East is the way to go. I think Galactic Star Cruiser, I don't know if it's actually going to help or hurt regular
Batu.
visitors to Galaxy's Edge, because one of the things, so there's 3 kind of pay to play activities that you can do in Galaxy's Edge, which is drinking at Oga's Cantina, building a droid at Droid Depot, and building your lightsaber at Sabi's workshop. On the days that there are going to be Star Cruiser Voyagers at Galaxy's Edge, they've held special inventory for Galactic Star Cruiser passengers, meaning that there are less spots available to go do those things for regular park goers that day. And every other day, there are going to be Star Cruiser Voyagers on Batu. So that means that every other day there's limited availability if you're wanting to go do those things. So if you are going to go and you're going to go to Batu, make sure you're not going on a day. If you're wanting to do those things, don't go on a day when Star Cruiser Voyagers are going to be there. You may, if you do, you're going to see them dressed up, hopefully in like their cool Star Wars garb. But if you're really trying to get a spot for Oga's in the morning, you're probably not going to get it. Or make sure that you do those things later on in the day, because I think the last bus to pick people up and take them, or the box truck that they're transporting people to from Batu back to the Star Cruiser, I think is like 4 or 4:30. So if you're going to do those activities, schedule them later in the evening, and you'll have a better chance of getting them.
Sort of
And
a
then-
dumb follow-up question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
before
it
we go any
just-
further,
Oh, go ahead.
which one is Disney World and which one is Disneyland?
You want to take that one?
Disneyland is in California, so it's a small one, land, and then World is the
I
Florida.
don't know if I'm backwards. Am I backwards? I can't tell.
No,
Okay.
yeah, you're
No,
back.
you're good. You're good. You're good.
Alphabetical, so from land to world.
And
Okay.
as
carry
far
on.
as the layout of it, there is slight differences in exactly where like the different ships are. I think they're not moved entirely, but it's not a exact.
It's pretty close, though.
It's pretty close,
I
but
think,
it's-
like, the paint colors that they used are slightly different.
well, I know Rise that queue's different, and then I think the A wing and the X wing are in different positions.
Mhm.
So
And if
again,
you went the
this is when you're
X-wing-
like really
Yeah.
looking at
Yeah.
really going in there and looking at it. But
I was more wondering where they each were.
oh,
But yeah, if you want the X-wing that was shown in Mando season 2, I think that's the one in Disney World in Florida.
Mhm.
You can just, oh wow,
Yeah.
Mando sat in that,
Yeah.
or not Mando, whoever it was.
it was the
Was it Carson Keva?
Yeah. Carson Teva.
I
Yeah.
think, or Teva, yeah.
John, go ahead. I knew that you had a question.
Yeah. So with the Star Cruiser, like obviously there was a lot of hype when it was announced, a lot of bookings coming up, and then after a poor YouTube video was put out, a lot of people started canceling. And then the itinerary came out, and then a lot of people started asking the question, does the price justify the experience that we have seen that Disney has shown us? I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the main concerns that you've gotten from clients in regards to the Star Cruiser? And, what advice do you have to people out there that might kind of cool their nerves a little bit on that whole experience? I mean, granted, since no one really knows how it's going to be because it's not open yet.
Exactly. So let me back up a little bit because you did say that a lot of people canceled their reservations, but the way, be careful what you see on YouTube is what I would say. There was a video that came out that said reservations are down 50%, so many people canceling.
Yeah.
If you go look at the Galactic Star Cruiser website, there's an availability calendar and it shows you there's rooms available or it's sold out that day. And if just one room becomes available for that date, bing, it shows available. And that's what was happening in a lot of those cases, because I did have people that were trying to move their voyages up to go sooner, and they had like 2 cabins on some day in May, and they were like, we want to go in April. I was not able to get them any dates in May or April. We had to go back up all the way to March to be able to find a single date that had 2 cabins available, which meant that there was one person canceling for each of those days. So when they say reservations were down 50%, I don't believe that in the slightest, because 1, I was trying to move people and I couldn't. And 2, of the groups that I've booked, I think I had one that just flat out canceled and said, hey, we're concerned about what we're seeing. We would, we're going to hold. So we're going to cancel for now. We're going to hold. And then I had one other party that was like, our final payment is coming up before it opens, and we really want to see what the reviews are before they open. So they pushed it to like September or something.
And I think that was the other thing, is final payments were due around that same time frame.
Yeah.
So people that didn't make their final payments, Disney basically
putting
cancels.
down 20%, it hurts. But when you got to put down the rest of that 80 and make that final payment, our final payment became due like beginning of December, which was like peak time for buying Christmas presents. It was like, oh, that hurts. It hurt a lot. And I think that was just, bad timing in the way that it fell, is that a lot of the first voyages, their final payments were becoming due right around Christmas. And that's just a very expensive time of the year in general. But yeah, like I think the second part of what you're saying, the negative feedback of the people that have gone, of the people that I have talked to that have been on Star Cruiser, and the people that have gone, like even the media, there's only certain things that they can share. Most of the time when people are going, like especially on these test cruises, they're signing NDAs, they're having their cameras taped over and disabled on their phones so that they cannot share anything. Nothing is getting out. I am good friends with the people that have gone on there, and nothing is getting out. They are not telling me what's going on with it. And I think it's much easier to trash something and maybe put very clickbaity titles out there in order to get views, because unfortunately that's what gets views on YouTube. And so people cling to that. And like you said, nobody's had the full experience of Star Cruiser yet. So you really can't form a full opinion on it. We can just take what they've given us, decide to get excited about it or not. And then if you have the means to do so, decide to spend your money on it or not. Like, that's really all we can do for the next 2 weeks. So, or 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
It's soon.
It's coming up.
Just 2 quick follow-ups.
Yeah.
First one, you mentioned a payment plan. Is that a 20/80 split, or is there actually other payment plans, since it is such a large chunk of credits, if you will, that you have to throw down for this experience? And then the second follow-up was, do you feel like those test cruises being locked under NDAs hurts your ability as a travel agent to try to help book these rooms or help build the excitement around that experience?
No, I don't at all. Let me talk about the payment plan first. So The deposit is 20%. No changing that. It's different than like a typical Disney World vacation where if you're doing room and tickets, you pay $200, you secure it. It doesn't matter if the rest of your package is like $300 or if it's $3,000. You just pay that $200 and you're set until final payment. 90 days before your voyage is when final payment is due. So you have to pay off that 80% by that date. Now, if you want to make weekly payments or monthly payments, you can do that. And I do have clients that I process their payments every month. I have some that are every 2 weeks. As soon as they get paid, they're like, hey, we're taking this chunk of our paycheck and we're putting it towards Star Cruiser. And so it's really just the two, like you have to pay 20% at this point and you have to pay the rest of it off by this date. However you do it in between is however you do it. In terms of whether or not these NDAs are hurting my ability to sell these cruises, I honestly haven't really sold. Like, I don't go out and do like hard sells, like come book with me on Galactic Star Cruiser. All I really do is share information that I've learned about it or that I think would be helpful to other people. And people come to me and book it. Like, I have never gone out there and slid into people's DMs and said, hey, you look like a Star Wars fan. You want to go spend $5,000 on a cruise? So we all see the same things. I probably know, well, I do know a lot more than probably most people about Star Cruiser because I call and I talk to the Star Cruiser specialists constantly, like multiple times a week. I'm calling them and I'm just a curious person and I want to know everything I can. So I ask all the questions. But even if you're just taking what's been put out there from like the media release or preview that they did in November, the stuff that you see on the website, like I think that's enough to go on that if you really did want to spend the money. And like I said, if you have the means to do it, like that's enough. And I think once it opens and once people are able to talk about it, I think we are going to see another big wave of people wanting to book it. But right now it's kind of a little bit of a slow period because we are so close to it opening that I think people are just holding to see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Allie, do you have a question? Do you want
Put me on the spot. I guess I'll help Luna feel a bit better. I guess I also have not been to Batu yet.
I'm sorry.
I've obviously been to Disneyland and everything, but I have not been to Batu. And so I guess in terms of that, outside of like what you already shared for Luna, I guess for someone else who hasn't been yet, is there like any particular like experience or like what would be your like top advice or top experience you would recommend?
I'll
Or
take it.
actually that and part B, I'd be interested to hear a bit more to what knowledge you have about the saber building.
Yes.
So yes,
That's
I would
all you, babe.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend building a saber. It's such an amazing experience.
And don't go watch the YouTube videos that like show the whole experience ahead of time.
Yeah,
If you haven't already, like just go experience it.
yeah,
'Cause
yeah. That's amazing. The droid building, I'm part of the droid builders, so I built the real BB. So the little toy
Multiple
one is kind of
BBs.
a toy one for me. I wasn't too crazy about that. Oga's is definitely a good time just to go
That's my favorite thing to do.
go
Yeah.
have some drinks. But yeah, seeing that Millennium, like just being in the land and seeing the ships is, it'll take your breath away. I think my top thing is building that saber is definitely one of the funnest things, and still now. And again, you have that memory. I built it with my son and had that moment. So it's definitely on the top.
I would say though there are a ton of options to go. So don't watch a video of like the experience because that will give a lot away. But there are things that you could do to prep to go build your lightsaber. So there's 4 different themes that you can pick from, and then you can pick pieces within those themes. So I would go look up those themes and figure out which saber you want to build ahead of time. Because when they put that tray in front of you and they say pick one of these 4, now you're like, no, I can't do that right now. I need like 3 hours to decide. So do that bit and then also figure out what color blade you want your lightsaber to be ahead of time, because that also can riddle you with decision paralysis in the moment. So I would just know what you want going into it, so that way you can kind of just relax and just enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
And then ride Rise of Resistance. Oh my gosh, you have to ride that.
Yeah.
Rise of the
Yeah.
Resistance, yeah.
If you can only ride one of the two rides, as cool as it is to be in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, which is just incredible, somehow they have topped that with Rise of the Resistance. It is a fantastic, you can't even call it a ride. It is a fantastic attraction that if you are going to spend any time in Galaxy's Edge, you should try to prioritize that one.
Okay.
I had a question real quick about Star Cruiser, and I just feel like I'm sorry if if we're all just bombarding you with travel agent questions. I apologize for that. Um, but like I saw that like they had like the garments and stuff like that you could order from Shop Disney.
Yep.
Is it did it seem like it was just like another added expense? Like do you feel like they should have just added like they should have just given you the clothes for paying that money?
So initially, they did say that they were going to provide clothes. In
Yeah.
one of the very early iterations or very first releases, press releases, they said that they were going to provide clothes. And they're not now, and that stinks. But at the same time, we have gone through a global pandemic, and so
Yeah.
a lot of things at the park are changing, unfortunately. And part of that is, supply chain issues. Like,
Yeah, but our last episode is like that's what we talked about was
yeah, it was the supply chain issues. But even since our last episode dropped, I think it dropped on the day that no, there was timing issues. But the ability to purchase costumes just came out last Tuesday, a week and a half ago. We didn't purchase our costumes on that day. We waited until this week. We waited a week.
nothing.
Nothing available.
Oh.
There are very few sizes available, particularly for the men. I think most of the sizes are sold out except for like extra small. For the women, there's
Extra small.
for the women there were still some sizes. For the kids, for the most part, the kids stuff was available, and so we were able to purchase a couple of things. But yeah, I think it's very similar to Galaxy's Edge or to really anything new that gets announced. Like whenever they announce this stuff, they're like, we're going to give you so much stuff. And it gets everybody super excited. And then they start thinking through like, okay, we need to like rationalize the cost of doing this and how this is going to work in practicality. And then things just slowly start getting cut until get what you get. And it sucks because you get excited for all those things. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, well, we've been burned before, so we know what to expect. But part of that whole thing is if they did provide costumes to everybody, we would all be dressed the same.
Yeah.
And part of the really cool thing about this being set in this new era of Star Wars is that you kind of just get to do whatever you want. It's not everybody showing up in Jedi robes or, Leia dresses, although they do sell the Leia dress. You can be whoever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. And that's been really cool. And it's absolutely consumed our lives the last couple of weeks.
Well, and I think, talking about the costumes that we could buy, I initially wasn't, and I'm still not really sold on them. But the fact that this is where it sucks because I only have a limited amount of time to make that decision, either the 60 days before and the 30 days after my trip. And if I don't buy it then, I have to get another another Star Cruiser. Like you can't get that close again. So it's like, do I have to buy it now, even if I think about getting it a couple, so that's
like
a
FOMO.
It's a very,
I think that adds to, it adds to like,
and then even
should
when
I
you're
spend the money on this?
Yeah, even then when you're talking to, talking about the costumes is, people that we talk to, like, yeah, I want to get it, but I don't want to wear that because that's what everybody's going to be wearing it. So you're going to buy it
I know,
just
he's
to
doing
have
all these
it.
reviews on the costumes too, and then he tells me yesterday, he's like, I'm not going to wear them.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So that's one of those things. Like it's a FOMO thing. You just I want to have it because it is something that's Star Wars,
but
but
it's a lot of money
yeah. So
to maybe not ever wear those things in a place that anyone's going to see you publicly, and so it's what do you do?
Yeah. Because I saw like Dano was modeling.
Dano's the one I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Yeah, because like he was super excited to get the saber training tunic, but at the same time he was like, I don't know when I'm gonna wear this outside of like going to Galaxy's Edge or like doing the Star Cruiser thing. Like,
Yep.
so that to me just seemed like it was just up in the air. Jane, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. About the clothes in general, because honestly, that's one of the things that I was most excited about. I am thinking about going at some point, and I have a whole Pinterest board of just like outfits that would like possibly work for Galaxy's Edge and like
Yep.
weird
Start thinking
dresses
about
that
it
like I
now.
wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I do, in that vein, is there a dress code requirement? Like, I'm thinking about like, there's the one dude who's gonna show up in like basketball shorts and a or like he's gonna show up in very like non-Star Warsy like apparel. Is there like some form of dress code? I'm just thinking about like immersion breaking things,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. So there are costuming guidelines, but there's nothing to say that you can't wear your earthly clothes on Star Cruiser. If
Mhm.
you wanted to show up in like cruise wear and wear like a Hawaiian shirt and some cargo shorts and maybe some flip flops, you could do that. I think because of the way that they've priced this and since it's such a high price point, most people aren't going to do that. But
Mhm.
I do have a few clients that are like, yeah, I'm not dressing up for this. I'm just going to wear my Star Wars shirts. And that's okay. Like, that's what you want to do. If that's what you get out of it, go for it.
Yeah.
But I also have seen people that are like, we're going on a cruise. I'm going to be a space cruiser. And so they've got like weird, like Hawaiian shirts that are kind of spacey and, you know, fun, like a Cad Bane hat and like all kinds of stuff. So it really is just how you want to do it and how
Okay.
deep into your costumes you want to go. Because
Mhm.
us, I think if we had all the time and all the money in the world before Star Cruiser and we weren't so deeply invested in other things around Star Cruiser, like taking care of my clients and doing all these other things, we would have gone like full out. Like, you know, he's a droid builder, so we would have been like 3D printing.
Yeah,
all these
I wanted to have
greeblies,
BD on my back and being
Yeah.
able to move like shoulder to shoulder.
right?
Yeah.
So
That sounds.
Yeah.
eventually I'm gonna build it, but
It will get there, but we just we don't have the time to do that, and two, like if we had the time, we're probably going to spend it doing other things
yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
Well, the funny thing is when we were watching Boba,
Mhm.
they had like Star Wars never really had like what the background characters look like,
Mhm.
and we had 2 episodes of like just public transport.
Yeah, we had
transport.
Mando on public transport.
So
That was
we got to
that
see
was so
villagers,
good.
we got to see the spaceport and people walking around. So
I mean, we're
I feel like
frame
they
by
were kind of
frame
letting us know, like,
pausing
hey,
it.
this is how normal space people look. So
Mhm.
you don't have, this is what kind of clothing
we-
you're supposed to wear
Yeah, but we got that like
right
what?
before.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. So like a month before this start. I mean, obviously not everybody's going on one of the first cruises. Some
Yeah.
people are going years from now. But it was just like, oh, did I go wrong with how I'm doing my outfits? And the way that we're doing our outfits, just kind of to give you a general idea for if you do go on it, or even if you just want to go to Batu and you want to bound for it.
Yep.
We just bought regular clothes and we're Star Warsifying them. So like you found a really cool jacket yesterday, and we're gonna kind of like add some patches and different.
Yeah, if you've seen
stripes.
Gaber Create.
Gaber Crate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do some
Yeah, she's
awesome
fantastic.
jackets, and like right they were booked up before
Yeah,
I think before Star Cruiser, or we found them.
I think she's gonna be on Armor Party's podcast
Yeah.
on Tuesday.
And but yeah, it was so I'm gonna try to emulate that kind of costume.
You
and
know,
then,
in 2 weeks.
yeah. I wanted to do like a Lando, like a solo, like real cool type thing, but I'm not that cool. So
No, don't
I
say
But
think
you
so.
are.
I think you're.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, you're cool.
like one day when I have that confidence, then I'll wear something like that. But
But yeah, it is the costuming part of it was more time consuming than I expected. But there are some costuming guidelines. Let me cover that for a second. While you're on this ship, it's pretty much anything goes, with the exception of wearing like a helmet. You cannot wear anything that's going to cover your face. You cannot bring anything that's going to look like or could be used as a weapon. Safety things, right? You don't want to be confused for one of the characters that's actually working on the ship, and then also you don't want to accidentally like stab somebody with your Beskar spear. When you go to Batu,
Yes.
typical park rules apply. So just slightly more restricted than what you would be doing on Star Cruiser, but essentially nothing that's dragging on the floor. So if you're going to wear a cape, it cannot be all the way down to the floor. It has to stop at your waist or really probably like your butt. What was the other one? No Jedi robes. That's the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's more for a safety issue of like getting on the rides, not getting stuff like stuck. But the costuming is actually pretty lenient. There's been some debate onto whether or not people could wear their helmets. They've said 501st friendly, but I wouldn't. Like, you could bring your helmet and maybe like like carry it around and like put it on maybe for a picture or something. But can you imagine wearing like a like Mandalorian?
This is the way. Like,
Yeah, this is the
you don't take it off.
It's for all
Don't take
day.
it off.
It's for all day. And if you're doing like lightsaber training or bridge training, like that's exhausting. That's
yeah.
That's committing.
good luck sitting down.
Yeah.
I can also
Yeah.
just see a bunch of just Jedi just shredding their robes like Obi-Wan does, like in Revenge of the Sith, like right before he's about to fight Anakin, like before riding Rise of the Resistance and Millennium Falcon, like you just see somebody just picking up like all of these brown robes.
There's just a pile of robes.
Yeah, it's just a
at the
pile of
line.
robes.
They have like coat hooks along the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be just that pile of Jawas, like they're gonna burn.
Exactly.
Oh no!
It's actually some guy dressed as a Jawa that's just like holding the robes. Just like, is this your robe? But I think that the costuming thing is really interesting as well. Like, because like on May 4th, they're really lenient about costuming because they want like everybody to like come in and just like really just celebrate Star Wars. So I do have to say this because we have a friend on the show as well. She does our RPG show. The lightsaber for lightsaber training. This thing is pretty much just a light up tape measure, right? Like that's what we've seen.
Well, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So
Okay.
the tape measure one, that is the hero lightsaber that
Okay.
we are assuming Rey's gonna come sometime during our story, and she's gonna
Save us.
save us somehow. We don't know, but that's the hero
But they
one.
haven't
That's
said
one.
It's Rey's.
That's
lightsaber. I
Rey's
think Josh Jamero said it belongs to Rey.
In this lightsaber training, I think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be one of the custom ones that we have because they want to avoid it coming apart. So it's gonna be a more stronger,
The training blade. Yeah.
one of the Saber FX ones or something where it's battle ready. But yeah, it's going to be a
Well, it's some kind of technology in it because the way that they're doing lightsaber training is it's like a laser coming out of the wall, and then you hold the lightsaber to like.
I think it's going to be
deflect it.
a LiDAR type technology. So
Okay.
the lasers where it's going to be, it's just being stopped by whatever.
Oh, by whatever.
You know.
So if I just like put my hands up,
Yeah.
I might have to do that.
Possibly.
I'm not
I don't
gonna
know.
look cool
Again, we'd have to.
regardless.
We'll see when we get there. But I think that's what it's going to be. It's kind of a laser, and you're blocking it. And,
Nice.
Yeah, we don't get to touch the tape measure one.
yeah.
Anybody have any other questions? No.
In the interest of time, no.
I don't think so.
I was gonna ask you just one more question, and then we'll wrap up for the night. I know that you've read Halcyon Legacy #1.
Yes.
How will this tie into the High Republic outside of this comic with like Buryaga and Nimbusek? Because like the High Republic is like the go-to era right now when it comes to Star Wars storytelling outside of Mando and Boba Fett here. What do you see them incorporating more High Republic stuff into this experience? And into Galaxy's Edge in general?
I don't know about Galaxy's Edge necessarily because Galaxy's Edge is, I mean, I guess technically the land could have existed well before the time that it's set in now, but the Halcyon, the Star Cruiser, is centuries old.
Yeah.
And so it very much makes sense that it did take place, or it was built during the High Republic. You even see in Halcyon Legacy, I forget his name, is it like Shug or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
A little short guy that's like standing on the table telling everybody what to do. He's the one that built it, that built the ship. And so I think probably you're going to see some tie-ins to that, but I think more than likely the Halcyon Legacy is just going to be right now it's like in current times, right? And it just flashed back to this battle, the first. That's basically the crux of the first issue, without giving too much away. But it flashed back. I think that's what the whole series is going to do, is just flash back to moments in time, because we've heard that Padme and Anakin were on the ship. We've heard that maybe Han and Leia were on the ship, and we've heard that there's different points in time where the Halcyon was actually a part of familiar character stories. And so I think that's where it's going to tie into more, and maybe not necessarily just all back into High Republic.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, I think that was after reading it. That was one of the things I told Sarah is I want to look for the Luke was here type of
Yeah.
those little markings, like blaster,
There was like scorch marks on the wall at
Yeah.
one
A
point,
bit of
and there's like a
Buryaga
little.
hair.
yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that where we
Buryaga.
could say, oh, like that's what that's from, and
Yeah.
no one else is gonna know unless you
Unless you read it, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, that's gonna be it for us. I am so sorry that we went 2.5 hours tonight, people. I apologize for that. You can always expect that on this show.
Some crimes can never be forgiven.
Yes. Just real quick, Sarah and Steven, where can people find you on social media?
So you can find our podcast. It's Princess and Scoundrel Show on Instagram. I think we're Princess and Scoundrel on TikTok. And then you can find our actual show either on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts. As you guys have mentioned, I am a I'm a travel agent, but I focus primarily in Disney. I can book anything. So if you are interested in that, my services are completely free to you. So you pay the same amount whether you are going directly and dealing with all of the hassle of planning and quoting and booking and paying, or you just use me and I just tell you, hey man, your final payment's coming due soon. You want me to process with your card on file? And you say, sure, man. And I say, all right, man, I got you. So if you want to find me, I am Sarah J Mac on Instagram and TikTok. And if you want more droid building stuff,
yeah, I stream on Twitch occasionally, play video games, rebuild BB and silly things. More of that's the hobby stuff. So,
Mhm.
but it's always a good time.
he's Dark Smack on
Dark
Instagram.
Smack on Twitch.
And Twitch, sorry. Everywhere.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us, everybody. Thank you to everybody who showed up tonight. Thank you to my guests, Sarah and Steven. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Luna. I see you chugging your lemon juice. Thank you, John. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
No,
not a
thank
problem.
you.
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
No, thank
Thank
you. Yeah. That's going to be it for us this week. May the force be with you. May you always fight for light and life. And remember, at the end of the day, we're all the Republic, except for some people. So that's all I'm going to say. That is it.
Targeted.
Wow,
Targeted.
subtle.
Yeah, I feel a little targeted there. That's it for us this week. We will see you next week on the show, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we are going to be doing a breakdown of the High Republic news that dropped this week.
Yeah, you better believe it.
Whoop.
Well, okay. Anyway,